We are live.
Welcome and welcome and welcome to News and Nonsense at Noon-ish. I'm Auntie AK, aka Queer Jamfi, aka the Auntie of all Aunties, and I'm here with...
I'm Farah, your resident Caribbean Queen.
I'm Nana, aka the Blackberry, aka Dark and Lovely.
And we are here, as usual, because the world is literally going to hell in a handbasket. We thought we'd bring you the news our way. We'll dig through all the news and nonsense out there to give you our take on it. We're here to help you separate the wheat from the chaff, sap from the crap, what you need to know from what you don't need to know. But before we get into it, Nana, what do we need to do? What do they need to do?
Guys, you know by now what you need to do. On entry, you need to book that like button now. Do it. Do it now. Thank you.
And Farah, what else do you want them to do?
I've frozen.
Why have you frozen?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Your vocals are there, but
I know.
Not your sweet face.
She's gone.
I don't know, but you can hear me. So once you can hear me, what you need to do is you need to like, comment, and subscribe. And please join our membership if you would like to. And our membership tiers are £1.99 if you want to be our friend, and £4.99 if you'd like to be family. But please like, comment, and subscribe.
Okay, I'm adding the link in now. I'm just trying to find it. I will add the link. It would be great if we had about 20 new membership signups while we are live. That would be amazing. That would be special. Yeah.
That'd be great. Because you know why we need new memberships? Because I need a bib for my clothes. I just spilled my water. Please help me buy some bibs so I can keep the water in my mouth. But also, guys, this is a disclaimer. We're getting lots of people getting on our nerves and saying, like, you know, aunties talking about stuff. We are just sharing our opinions. We are not experts. We are allowed to share our opinions. And as your favorite aunties on the internet, you also know we're open to being updated, clarified, corrected, advised. We're not authoritarians. We're not ignorant. We're here for the discussion. But first, as humans, we share our opinions to what is presented before us. And I make it very clear, we do not have time to do all the research because we're very busy working babes. We work very hard in our day-to-day, and we do this to try and help you go on a journey of exploration. Like I said, we're just sharing our information, what we know. This is like the Ultimate Aunties WhatsApp group. That's why I say that. It's like we don't know everything. We kind of got some ideas about things. So this is the thing. If you want actuals and factuals, ask TLC or ask Google. Phone a friend. And any links that we do share, which we do to help you take the journey into more exploration yourselves, is why we do it. So you take those links, you do your stuff, and then you do more, because those links aren't us saying this is the absolute final information. Guys, don't let me say it again. I'm going to say it every week, but don't let me say it again today. We are just sharing our opinion. Thank you, please.
Okay, that's it.
Hello, good night.
That's it.
You know what? I was watching on is it Grenada online? It's I think it's an account on Insta, Grenada something, and they were doing like vox pops with people, and the guy actually said, hello, good morning, and I was like,
I can't wait for you. I can't wait to bring you guys to Grenada.
Listen, when I was watching, I was like, oh my God, I so want to go. And they were going around and asking people like very Grenadian sayings. It was like, you're not a Grenadian if you don't know this. And then they were saying their sayings. And I was like, oh, this is lovely. I want to go.
All right, guys, let's see roll call. Who's in the chat? Ashes to Ashes was here first, I must say. Good afternoon.
Yes, Ashes to Ashes came in. Yvonne, you're falling off. We have D
in the chat.
We have C. We have Rhea Hampton. Yvonne White is in the chat as well. We have Lady Lyrics is with us. We have Serena is with us. Will Smith is in the house. KW is in the house. Kim Ola is in the house. Ceylon Dillon is in the house. Cher is with us, but only until 1 o'clock. Boo. And also, Yvonne is saying that's a typical Bajan saying also. Interesting. Oh, you know what? I meant to send you something, Farah. My friend was, they were saying that nutmeg can be like a hallucinogenic or really bad for you.
Yes.
in large quantities, and he was saying like you shouldn't even sprinkle it on your custard tarts. Is that true, or is this white propaganda?
It's just white fucking gander. Don't come for the spice aisle, right? We are Grenada. We are the Isle of Spice. We export the second largest quantity of nutmeg in spices in the world. Thank you very much. Don't come for us. Yeah, about hallucinogenic. It's actually got healing properties. Thank you very much.
I've heard, and you know they try and put spin on it. I have heard that nutmeg or cinnamon or something like that you can get kind of woo-woo if you have. But this is talking about probably chewing them raw. Or
sniffing it.
Yeah, exactly. Or sniffing it. You know when they know that a country's dominated in their exports, they're like, oh, let's come and trouble them and try and get a piece of it. Because whenever they show interest in anything that we're eating, the price goes up.
Exactly.
Oh,
that's try it.
All this. Get out
when
of
you
it.
land in Grenada, this is a fact. When you land in Grenada, you can smell the spice in the air. Factual.
Oh, I can't wait for that. Will Smith, don't try it. Will Smith says, Auntie Nana, did Auntie Nana upgrade her camera and or Wi-Fi looking particularly clear today? We just reconfigured. Exactly. Just say I look nice today, innit?
You look nice, man. Like
we sorted out where the booster is supposed to be. So the Wi-Fi wasn't the issue, it was the Evans family's engineering skills.
Okay. But I will say you are looking particularly TV today.
I'm on the same camera. You know what? Actually, no, I feel like Mr. Evans may have changed this lens. It's quite big. So maybe this is another lens on the camera. Maybe he also thought you need an upgrade. Who knows?
All we need is our men to upgrade us. You know what I mean?
I can upgrade myself.
Okay, you know what I mean. Hi, Rich and Louis. We love the banter. We will keep on doing it. And right, guys, now let's get down to business. As you have seen, there's been some white racist nonsense afoot. Lots of stuff. I'm going to get into the first story. First of all, Ms. Carole Malone claims there were positives to British colonialism. If you don't know who she is, during a tense debate on GB News, columnist Carole Malone argued that all aspects of British colonialism were wrong. She stated that while terrible things did occur, there were also positives. Obviously, her remarks drew backlash. Lots of people criticizing her for downplaying the violence and exploitation of the empire, which I renounce as that statement, but it is what it was.
Exactly.
So here we go. I'm going to press play and let's hear what Ms. Carole has to say. With
everything we did by colonizing. Yes, it is true. They think everything about colonization was wrong. It wasn't. There were some terrible things and there were some good things to come out of it. And that is about properly acknowledging your past.
Education.
Yes, completely.
Sanitation.
Transport.
There was so much that we brought to communities.
But you see, you're typical of what we're talking about.
No, I'm saying that colonization, the empire was wrong. It was wrong, full stop. That's, the things that Britain might have done.
But that's very much through your modern sensibilities,
Yes.
you might say that, because we wouldn't now routinely go into other countries.
It was a profoundly racist set of basically invasions of other people where we subjugated people to our rule and sort of made them work for us. It was
made
their countries work.
Could imagine yourself in the shoes of a 13-year-old boy hearing you say that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
What do they then? How do they then carry that through life?
Well,
in terms of who I am as a Brit.
But it's not about.
We had racist ancestors.
But I'm saying that we hear much more of that than we do about the benefits of that period of time.
Well, because I don't think there were benefits. I think that we have to be completely.
Of course there were.
I don't think there were.
There were benefits to us.
A lot of those countries did not, Jonathan, those countries,
it absolutely does.
Those countries did not have money. They did not have the creativity. They did not have people in positions of power
of course they had creativity
No,
in
they
those
didn't.
countries. They just didn't live like Britain did. It doesn't make it worse. It just makes it different.
So it's okay to live without education, and it's okay to live without a transportation system, is it?
They did have education. It just wasn't our education system. They had language. It wasn't our language.
This cultural
medicine we brought to
precisely what we have.
Yes. I don't know. I don't know why we're even.
We now have a generation that believes
I tried my hardest to find the whole thing, and it's not available yet.
No, I was trying to. It is not. GB News separates everything out, so they hook us in with these clips, and then you need to subscribe to their website to get access to the full videos, and they only put certain things out on YouTube. It's not on YouTube. I looked thoroughly as well.
Me too.
But you know what? Carole Malone, I know she is an absolute disgrace, but to really be going over this with colonialization, like there was no transport, there was no education in various parts of the world. Where the hell did you even get this from? Yeah. India, Africa, wherever the British were put in their empire, there was no education and there was no transport. Really?
Yeah, no one moved. Before Britain came along with their fucking empire, nobody moved in any of those countries. They didn't go anywhere. They didn't know how to build boats. They stayed inside the mud, and that's all they did. And they ate dirt, and they never washed themselves, and they didn't know how to cook food. They ate raw food all the time. They came, Great Britain came and civilized us and gave us education. It is preposterous. Yeah. And what she's saying is absolute trash. It's preposterous.
And everything, and that's the thing
because we all know that Great Britain and the colonies. Sorry, go on.
No, it's fine. You got to delay. Go finish. Yeah, you got a time lapse. Go on.
Sorry, I was just saying that everybody knows that the colony, the people that colonized us, didn't only steal our lands and our resources, they also stole our education. They stole our what's the word I'm looking for? Ingenuity, not that word. How do you say it? Ingenuity, thank you. They stole all of those things. They learned how to irrigate. The irrigation system did not come from them. They stole that from me. Farming, all the ways that we farm, they stole from us. Like this idea that we were sitting around like cavemen still until they came and civilized us and taught us education is preposterous. She actually needs to go and read a fucking proper book to learn what happened. If we had nothing and we had no money, as she calls it, why is all of our gold sitting in your reserves? Why is it that all of our artifacts are sitting in your museums and you will not give them back if we had no creativity? Please explain to me why your museums are full of our stuff. Where's your shit? Where is the shit that is inherently British? Where is it? Where is it?
Well, that's
like what's British art? What's like exactly, what is it?
But this is why the other woman, who I didn't know who the other woman is, why she was saying, well, it benefited us. Like, how dumb? Like the poor ally, as Will Smith said, he's stressed, trying to say, like, are you okay? It's preposterous what you're saying. The other woman was like, yes, colonization benefits us. So instead of teaching our poor white children about all the atrocities, teach them about the benefits. That is not what we need to do. And at the end of the day, the average white child is growing up under the guise of white supremacy and white privilege. So you're never, ever going to get that insecurity. Yes, you might. Yes, there is more because of the internet breaking down the barriers. There is more information being out there that they can Google for themselves and see how atrocious their ancestors were. And so you got them battling against the brainwash versus what's right in front of their faces and where they're exploring more about themselves. So do not paper over the lie by saying, well, actually, let's talk about the benefits of colonization, because as the white man was saying, that it benefited us, sure, but it was still damaging. So in the advancement of benefiting yourself, you're teaching your loyal subjects, your minions, that in order to better yourself, you have to kill, steal, pillage, grape people in order to be better. That is what you're teaching your people, and you're telling, and you want to say that that's a better thing. That's better than telling the truth. What you need to do is tell the lies in order to protect little white children. But all brown children and other children of other heritages, be damned, because fuck them and their pride and security. And you lot will be the same people that be criticizing black and brown children who get into kind of intertribal wars and damages, and they're in poverty and things like that because of the systemic racism and white supremacy. You'll be quick to criticize them for that, but let them want to empower themselves and be armed with the proper knowledge of who they are and what they were doing. And as you guys have both said, we were here before you. We were the first people on the earth. And what is this thing, this obsession with white folks thinking that when we came, we made things better? human beings evolve, and black people 100% know how to make lemonades out of fucking shit. Yeah, we know how to make lemonades out of shit. So maybe the things that you're saying that you brought, how do you know that someone wasn't working on it, but you freaking beat it and took it from them before? How do we know? And it's been time.
That is precisely what they did. They stole everything.
Exactly.
And it is, I think, as every generation feels like they bring something new to the playing field, I think we have to see that within the newest evolving types of humans as well. They always think that they are the first. As like indigenous people always say, our little cousins think that they are the ones making the world when really they are destroying it, because you're not actually listening to the people that have survived for over 20,000 years. You're like, no, they can't tell us anything. You're the ones that are basically destroying the earth because you're not listening to old wisdom until it's too late, and then you're going to learn. It is counterintuitive to say we shouldn't teach people the full scope of history because it affects their self-esteem. In them thinking they are superior actually does more damage to their self-esteem, their nervous system. It actually is the destruction of who they are by not telling them precisely what their history was, what their ancestors did, how you can actually be a better version of your ancestors by knowing what they did that was wrong before. You're sitting in your guilt trying to hide it. That other white woman with her brown hair sitting there talking about that we benefited from it. I guarantee you she's probably on antidepressant pills. Her husband's probably cheating on her. And it's all wrapped up in the same thing of shame and trying to run from whoever they are. This is the white people's plight. This is what's killing them, is trying to erase their history. You have to face it.
Then the other white man that was there with the grayish hair, he said, I could hear him in the background. And when they were talking about what does this do for the 13-year-old boy? And he said, teaching them, making them think their ancestors was racist. They were. They were. Okay? They were. Let's not erase history. They were racist. Okay? Sorry. Go ahead.
No, finish.
No. I was just gonna. I was online looking at everything that people were coming, because obviously people were outraged by these sorts of comments. Here, there was a really good person that commented on. I can't remember whose post. I'll find it in a minute. But he basically, people keep calling me. It's annoying. He basically listed a bunch of things that were done by people of color around the world before colonization. So he said in the 10th century in Istanbul, from Cairo to Istanbul, there were what did he say? There were public houses in every city. He said in Morocco, there was a university that was founded in 859, and it's the oldest university in history. He said Timbuktu housed over 700,000. What the? Sorry, I've got to go. I've had 2 calls. Sorry, it's weird. I've got to go.
Well, yeah, and I was going to, I hope everything's okay. I was going to say in response to you, Nana, all this kind of crazy meltdown. This is why we have a whole heap of Karens and Kens. And we've seen so many white women, that crazy meltdown that they have. And it's like, we laugh at it and joking, Karen, but there's actually a weird psychosis that they have. Like when you just are screaming irrationally at things. And we can trace the steps and say it's all part of it, but it's like, what actually is wrong with you? You have been put on a pedestal of privilege to the point where black men were being murdered and killed because they even looked at you, whistled at you, implied that they even had a thing for you. You've been pedestalized so much, but yet that insecurity and realizing you're not living up to it, and especially when you have the relationship between a black woman and a white woman, and that may be manifested jealousy, that you don't understand why you're jealous of a black woman who seems to be able to carry her load and be glowing and look like she's 5 years old when she's 55, all of that stuff. And then you're like, but hold on, we are told that we are supreme, we are the best, we are running the world. But yet somehow in my day-to-day, and as whoever said that you've been cheated on, this and this and this, depressions, all that stuff, you don't understand why you just can't cope with society, and you're out there screaming and making other people's lives hell because your life is hell. This is part of it.
It is.
Security.
It is. It all seeps in because it's a lie. There's shame. Shame affects us in so many different ways until you can face it. Exactly. But if you consciously are like, we need to hide this from our kids for them to avoid shame in some way, obviously they're still going to hear about it. Like there is a whole big old internet. Even if you are like steeped heavily in the parasite that is racism, you're still going to come up against people arguing that this is what racism is. And deep down, you're still going to feel it. You're still going to be like, because it's the truth.
Exactly. Why did they
deficient? It's the truth. You know that they are deficient. You know it doesn't matter. Like it's going to hit you even when you want to be in denial. And I think that is the parasite. It literally causes a denial. It has to be a madness. Yeah. It has to be. People go wild, and I look at them, and I'm like, you're actually in a delusion, and you're spouting stuff. Carole arguing with that man. You're in a delusion. Like really?
Yeah. For listen, and let's go to the comments.
Sorry, I was just going to say. I'm on me. I was just going to say as well, like, why do they get to choose which shame they can hide? Because about the Holocaust all day long, they want us to learn about that, and we should learn about that because it was actually shameful what took place. But why is it that they can't talk about the shame of the colonization that they did across Africa and the Americas? Why can they not talk about what they've done to indigenous people throughout the world? Why can't you talk about that? Is that not shameful? No. We're just going to reap the profits from what happened there and act like it didn't. And this idea that the woman said as well, we wouldn't routinely go into other countries and still colonize them. What the fuck do you think Israel is?
What's going on now? And even with Pakistan and India right now, what's happening?
Exactly.
In India, it's like that because of them. Okay, they started it.
It's literally like that is a ridiculous statement. Like, but we wouldn't just do that. Falklands.
Exactly.
The islands, the Galapagos, I think it was. Whatever, I can't remember what they were called. The Mayormine people. Like just the other day, you cleared out a landmass of people and displaced them and took their island. The other day. About we ain't doing that anymore.
They're still doing it.
Taking Canada. It's just in the nature. Let's get some comments, please. There's been quite a few.
At the beginning, Kevin, thank you, aka Master K, has given us £5, and he says the Jamaican Pan-Africanist. I can never say this name. Theo, thank you. Published books in times of the British Empire exposed the human rights injustices of colonialism. I mean, there are so many stated factual claims of how disgusting it was. She's chatting shit. William Jackdaw says Europe had education before Christians conquered it and literally brought about the Dark Ages. Precisely. Let's see who else had a good one. I saw Celia Dillon said something really cool. If you guys can spot anything else, let's see. All right, hang on. Celia Dillon says, Bev, the other woman, is just as bad and has form. She stated Russell Brand was a hero because he's anti-vax and therefore didn't essay women. It's all a smear campaign.
Okay.
Oh, so she's a prize prat.
Okay. All right.
All right, Bev.
Yeah, all right, Bev.
Oh my God. And Jeannie Bottle says knowledge is key to discovery and history is important to not repeat mistakes. Time to teach and learn unity, not division.
Absolutely.
I mean, we can but try, as they say.
Try. I'm going to move on to some more racism and this is wild in itself. Also, we had a racist rant, which we spoke about on the main show, that this woman, Shiloh Hendricks, who raised hundreds of thousands of dollars on her Give, Send, Go after her viral video showed her repeatedly using the N-word towards a 5-year-old rumored to be autistic black boy, claiming he had stolen from her child. The same platform is also hosting a campaign for Carmelo Anthony, a black teenager charged with fatally stabbing a white classmate at a school track meet in April. Now, that's the premise of the conversation. It's on Piers Morgan Uncensored. We know what we think about Piers Morgan, and sometimes he's a broken clock. This side, he was the right side of an unbroken clock in this conversation, exploring what happened. So we're going to watch it. In amongst this conversation, in comes some woman who's openly ready to talk about how racist she is. I'm going to break it down so you get a bit of an intro, you get the overview, and then we'll go to that, and then we'll discuss afterwards, because it is a little bit wild.
By extreme and viral takes on social media. 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony is a black teenager charged with stabbing a white boy to death at a school track meeting in April. More than $600,000 in donations have poured in, not for the victim's grieving family, but for his alleged killer. Last week, Schllo Hendricks went viral after a video showed the young mother racially abusing a 5-year-old, allegedly for stealing from her young child.
Call him a child? Did you call the child word? It is my own business. You call him a... Okay, why don't you have the boss to say it right now again? Okay. All right, that's what you say. Nobody dig into your shit. That little kid, you call him the little child? Are you about to hit him? You chase him here?
He took my son's stuff.
So that gives you the right to call the child 5-year-old.
Well, as you can see, Hendricks doesn't deny using the slur. In fact, she repeats it many times. That's all the stuff is bleeped out. When a bystander in the park follows her with his smartphone. Hendricks set up a fundraiser on the same website as Carmelo Anthony's supporters, on which she wrote, "I called the kid out for what he was." Incredibly, that campaign has now raised more money than the first one, surpassing $655,000 at the time of taping the show. Well, the boss of the website, Give, Send, Go, is accused of facilitating brazen racism on a platform whose motto is "Money is temporary, Jesus is eternal. He will join me later." Liberals say this is exactly what they've been warning about, that the post-BLM backlash and the crushing of DEI has provided a fig leaf for outright bigotry. Conservatives were similarly outraged by the support for Carmelo Anthony, an alleged murderer who's been glorified by some as a victim of a racist system. We're here to debate all this is the host of the Fresh and Fit podcast, Maron Gaines, the host of School on YouTube, Marc Lamont Hill, Lily Gadis, a social media commentator whose video defense of the N-word mother has so far been viewed millions of times on X, and the New York Post columnist and author Ricky Schllo. Well, welcome to all of you. Ricky, look, my take on this is a stain on all their houses, right?
Okay. See you later.
I think white people have been under attack for years. It's been systematic racism. As much as Black people and people of color want to talk about systematic racism in the United States, it's quite the opposite. They get preferential treatment when it comes to getting a job, when it comes to getting into colleges. White people, on the other hand, have been getting attacked relentlessly. Look at 2016 and BLM and all the riots. We just had to sit back and watch people burn down our cities and do nothing about it. So the way to fight back against essentially this anti-white hatred that's been systemically, ingrained in U.S. society is with white unity. We don't see white unity on
hang on. Okay, but hang on. Sorry, just to be clear, this has got nothing to do with anything you've just said. This is a disgusting racist woman who repeatedly spews the N-word, first at a young child, and then at the person taking the video of her, does it with complete impunity, does it numerous times. We are talking about a bona fide, unquestionable racist. And so I don't understand why what you've just said to me bears any relation to white unity or anything that you've just said. She's just a racist. End, isn't she? You wouldn't dispute that.
It's not about her. It's not about her. It's about
it is about her
coming together and supporting another white person. And it doesn't matter.
Why would you want to support a white racist?
Because I want to support free speech, and you cannot have free speech in the country.
No, that's fine. You can support free speech, but you also have to be accountable for what you say. Would you use the N-word out of interest?
Yes.
You would?
I do, quite frequently.
You use the N-word quite frequently. Well, why? Other than the fact you're a despicable racist. Are you?
Some would say I am. I guess according to the ADL, I'm a white supremacist. I'm a neo-Nazi.
Gaines, because you've been smirking and laughing. What's funny about any of this?
Well, I mean, I find it interesting that you guys want to virtue signal and, wag the finger and say she's a racist and everything else like this.
No, she admits she's a racist.
Well, let me
I'm not wagging a finger at anybody. I don't need to but Maron, with respect, Maron, I don't need to wag a finger when somebody says, yeah, I'm racist. I use the N-word against Black people. I don't care. That's a racist. I'm not wagging any finger. I'm not accusing anybody. She is admitting it proudly. Even you can't defend that, surely.
Everybody is racist to some degree. The reality is it depends on, a lot of people want to be politically correct. A lot of people want to sit there and say, I'm not racist at all. We all have biases. We all have stereotypes. We all make jokes. We all are racist to some degree. Now, how racist you are is a whole other situation, but everyone is racist. That's number one. Next thing I want to say. See, I think the Shiloh, Hendricks, and Metcalf situation is a microcosm of a much bigger problem. And that bigger problem is what I call systemic organization. And what I mean by this is for decades, we've had Black people literally running around with Black supremacy, committing crimes, not getting accountability for their actions, and then they blame the system for it. For example, George Floyd, criminal. Ferguson, criminals. Freddie Gray, criminal.
Well, all the people
are
dead.
criminals, and what ends up happening is they challenge a police officer, they get into a physical altercation, things go left, they die, something happens, use of force is utilized, and then they want to cry about the result, when in reality, it's not the police killing Black people, it's Black people killing Black people. And if you want to talk about Black on white violence, Black people kill white people 2 times as much. And on top of that, most of the shootings in America, a lot of the times, are white cops killing other unarmed white men. So this whole systemic racism or police brutality, or, oh, it's all so messed up. The reality is this. Black people have been able to get away with a ridiculous amount of privilege in America for a very long time. They're able to be racist with impunity. They're able to call white people crackers without being challenged back. And quite frankly, white America's had enough of it, and the chickens have come to roost. Now, look, am I saying that's awesome? Am I saying that's great? No, but for literally the better part of almost 2 decades since the Obama era, we've had to have BLM and liberalism shoved down our throats, and quite frankly, we're all tired of it.
Right, but just to be clear, you would have no problem with one member of this panel openly saying she uses the N-word at Black people with impunity and is proud of being a racist. You have no problem with that?
My worldview on the protection of the First Amendment and freedom of speech overrides my personal feelings. She has the right to say
That's fine.
it.
You can support the First Amendment, but you can also have a personal opinion about what she said.
My feelings are irrelevant. The Constitution is the Constitution. That's what matters.
Oh, that's fascinating. Hold on.
Ask you one more time. I mean, you've been so unashamedly proud of being a racist today, proud of using the N-word whenever you feel like it. You've had a bit of time to think about this. Is that how you want people to leave this panel debate, with thinking of you as a disgusting racist?
I don't really care what people think about me. As long as you care about what people think about you, you have no power and you lose your country. What I care about is freedom of speech. And if you're not allowed to say the most offensive things in this country, you do not have freedom of speech. I don't care what anybody says. So that's the main crux of this situation. That's what I care about with this situation. It is, we have lived for far too long in a country where you can have your life destroyed. And people say, oh, she doesn't need this money. Her life's destroyed, by the way. She'll never be able to get another job. She's got children to have to support.
She was working.
And I don't want to live in a country where you can say an inappropriate, rude thing, which, by the way, Black people can say things to white people all the time and they never get canceled. There's no backlashing about this. I want to live in a country where people are allowed to say what they want unashamedly. And you will
well, go
not
on, then
have
say it. Say the N-word. Go on, say the N-word. Go on.
No. I don't want you to invite this woman to say a racially harmful term in front of me, because I'm the only on here. So if she says it, I'm the victim of it. So please don't invite her for ratings to call me the N-word, because that's basically what it's going to be. There's a bunch of white people up here, you and one Uncle Tom on the left here, and after her to say the N-word while I'm here is ridiculous. You would not sit here with a Jewish person and say, please use a Jewish slur in front of this Jewish. It's ridiculous. I understand you don't have any bad intent, Piers. I understand what you're trying to do, but we already know she's racist, and I don't want to invite a racial harm to me.
I hear you, and I accept that, and we'll leave it there. Thank you all very much.
We'll go back to the guy who owns the platform, because he said he's a bit stupid as well, but let's discuss this first section. This woman, I can't remember her freaking name, and I don't care to remember her name, and freaking Maron as well.
Hang on, what was her name? Her name is Lily Gadis.
Okay.
The idea that she is saying that white people have been the victim for far too long, I'll use the word again, is preposterous.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that she's saying, if this is freedom of speech and people should be able to say what they want, and that's what she cares about the most, and that if you don't have freedom of speech, that's how you lose your country, when you are in a country that isn't yours, babe.
Precisely.
America isn't yours. It's a colony. That's what it is. A very successful colony, but it's a colony nonetheless. The idea that she sits there and says that black people, or he, I can't remember if it was her or him who was spouting the nonsense and talking about black privilege and all this shit. And sorry, she called the BLM movement riots. She said there were riots. They were peaceful protests, and the police came and started tear gassing these people whilst they were doing peaceful protests.
Mm-hmm.
She is deluded. She's delusional. And she's just like, she said, I used the N-word so quickly, Piers didn't even get it out of his mouth before she was like, so quickly and so proudly. Like, she is actually believing that they are the victims in that country. She believes it. I'm astounded by these people because I think that they're suffering from some sort of psychosis where the words that they're spouting, they truly believe that it's factual. Like, you are the victim. You as a white person who's the majority in America cannot go outside your door and feel safe in the country that you colonized. You don't have that privilege. You've got no privilege at all. All the privilege, all the jobs go to all the black people. All of them.
Yeah. Okay. And white people are twice as likely to be killed by a black person.
Yeah.
No.
And Myron said that.
Yeah, he said that.
As a Sudanese American man. But the amount of black men that were following that man's channel, who actually hates black Americans. He hates them. He thinks you guys are literally like the bottom of the pile and continuously says bad shit against black folk. It's like, for Lily, that psychosis is there. I do think it is a parasite. I do think eventually it will be studied and they'll be able to identify that parasite that has been occupying brains of unmelanated people, and somehow it is attached to melanin in some way, and the lack of it is able to thrive. Sometimes in some melanated people, it can penetrate as well, and they're there, and Myron is suffering from that. Because it's all mad. It's mad to even say what she was saying. It's like, in what world is that statistically, factually true? In what reality are you occupying that actually there is some black agenda that is being supported before Trump came in? Because I guess she's a Trumper as well. So during Biden, let's even say just during Biden, there was some agenda that he was effectively able to do in the 4 years that he was in office that really elevated black folks. There isn't one. So what are you talking about? It's not represented in media. It's not represented in film. There literally just is no representation of what she was describing as a part of reality. That's one thing. She went viral on TikTok by saying the N-word repeatedly. So Piers absolutely knows who Lily is. And him trying to do you're a despicable racist when Piers has shown himself to be a racist as well. Like, him going after flipping Meghan all the time is a form of his racism. Like, Piers is also an idiot. At least he's having the full idiot array for us to be able to see. The only person I felt sorry for in that was Mark.
Me too.
That he had to be party to these fools talking about shit and bringing up statistics that are not true.
Saying she wants white unity. That is colonialism.
That is life every day, to be fair.
That is white supremacy. You have that.
This is life every day. This is life every single day. And listen, you can be in your neighborhood and say, oh, I live in a rough area, and oh, I might feel a bit unsafe walking down the street. Whatever the case is, but to say generally on the world term, white people are so scared, clutching their pearls to do anything because black people have so much advantages and privileges. I get out of here. And yes, Piers, as I said, he's a broken clock. And having this discussion, and this is where I wanted to go into discussion about these two guys had a conversation about Myron and his position because he's Sudanese and Sudanese American, and Mark was saying specifically, you have no right, because I didn't go onto Mark's bits because otherwise I make the exploration too long. But Mark was saying, why have you got this anti-black American who's not black American speaking on these things, and that feeds into the whole narrative about the ADOS and the FBAs, who, when they have a point, like if they're coming for like people like Myron speaking on their things, then yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah,
and it's
fair.
Yeah. Instead of coming for every single person who's not Black American and then tarnishing with the same brush, that is not fair. But I just wanted to go into this conversation that these two guys are having.
I think actually people like Myron, because also Myron was like, I am the definition of an African American, and he was like, you're being obtuse, like, because it isn't, you can't have them being like the voice of Black America when they absolutely are not, and they have disdain for Black Americans, truly, who were taken there, displaced there, and have made this land their own as well. No, you can't be voicing about the Black experience when you came from Sudan. Like, it's like, no, like, I think there are clear distinctions, definitely, and I understand why ADOS and FBA came out of, because of those types of Africans that come along and will be like, yeah, they're all heinous, they all are. And it's like, no. Remember that you are a foreigner in this land, actually.
So let's just go into this a little bit of this discussion.
The thing on this, he says Black people
not Fugazi.
privilege.
I don't know who he is.
Privilege.
Who is he?
So this is no Fugazi. I can't remember what his proper name is. He is an absolute Egypt of Egypts. Like, he just chat shit. He goes after, he talks nonsense about Black women all the time. He's with a white woman. He says he wouldn't date a single mother. He's dating a single mother. Like, he's in Egypt.
Okay. Oh, well, this is interesting. I didn't know him because I just stumbled across these because the guy at the bottom, Marquette, or whatever his name, Marquette.
I have no idea who he is.
So Marquette is a good friend of Myron, by the way. So here, this gives
all right, let's hear
context of what they're talking about. Okay, cool.
She's explaining is, I mean, it's not really privilege. It's like, okay, I can say this, but it's not really privilege. You would say that it's an effect of what the white man has done. Because I always like to say, like, if we're going to speak about, because I see the claims that he's making right now, he's saying that, well, white people are behaving this way and saying these things, and this uproar that white people are doing, this is an effect because Black people have been BLM riots. They can call a white person a cracker, which I'm against all of that too, but Black people has been doing this. But then let's peel the layer back even further. Well, why are Black people doing this? Well, Black people are doing it now, and the BLM riots and all of this is because of the racism in America. What's your take on that, Marquette?
Oh, I hate his name.
Myron's my good friend. However, everything he said was nonsensical. He hasn't made one good point so far, and he'll still be my good friend even though we disagree. So number one, when he states that everyone's racist, this is not a fact, but he's able to suggest that it is, and no one challenged that idea. That's false. I would go out and say I'm not racist at all. For example, and a lot of people, they look at Myron, and because they're provincial and inexperienced and not sophisticated or well-traveled, they look at Myron and they say, oh, he's Black. No, Myron's not Black. To me, he looks just like a dark Arab. And the reason he looks like a dark Arab is because I've traveled extensively, particularly in the Middle East. And
you okay?
He just looks like a dark Arab.
Let's go back.
In Eastern Africa and Southern Africa, and I've seen his face before many times. And so you look at his features, they're not the features of a sub-Saharan African, even though he is dark. You find dark skin in various places, whether you're talking about in India or you're talking about in Australia. We're talking about the Aborigines, the real Australians. So Myron may be dark, but he's not a Black person in the sense of he's not an African American, or he's not really properly an African. He looks just like an Arab to me. He is an Arab, and he's just a dark Arab. So when people get angry that he's not sympathetic to Black issues, well, that's not what he identifies with. I believe his parents' mother tongue was probably Arabic. And in as much as that's the case, I get it. However, I would venture to say this, with all respect for my good friend, that he shouldn't even be a part of this conversation. Piers Morgan shouldn't be in the conversation. He's not even an American. He's a goddamn Britisher.
What is
yeah, you got to say goddamn.
A Britisher.
What's a Britisher?
What's a Britisher?
Okay, let's continue.
therefore removed from this. Myron,
as he sits in his cricket top,
as did his parents. They're not a part of this conversation. The history of America and the racial politics, it's black and it's white. This is not to disrespect any other group. And if there wasn't two other groups that would be involved, it'd be the Native Americans, because they were here before all of us and largely got eradicated. They still exist in casinos and in reservations. Shout out to them. So they can be a part of the conversation. And then you'd have Latinos a part of the conversation. But frankly, American racial political history is black and white. There's not much in between. It was always a conversation between these two opposing groups, and they're not really opposing, except that the whites wanted to, oppose the blacks. And it's not every bit of the white structure. It was primarily the property class. And then the other ones just had racism, like petty racism. The property class, they owned black people in a literal sense. But I say all that to say, number one, Myron is irrelevant. He shouldn't be speaking on these issues. These are not his issues at all. Similarly, they're not Piers Morgan's issues, but specifically with regards to Myron's arguments, they're atrocious. Saying everyone is racist, this is not a fact. Saying most people are racist, that makes sense. And then thirdly, he basically conflates a lot of things. And as a result, you can't track the arguments because he's blurring together too many things. In fact, I'd encourage you to rewind back and we can take it sentence by sentence.
Yes.
And deconstruct the arguments.
Okay. So, yeah.
Oh, sorry, just quickly, Will Smith said, Market is what?
Oh, bless. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh gosh.
Well, I don't know, Mark. I think it is in Mark Davis. In Marquette's exploration, what I found problematic, because I wasn't sure where he was going, and I thought maybe he was going to advocate for what Myron was saying.
Yeah, me too.
He did go on to say things that we've all pretty much said, but it's just that also there's a thing to explore. How can you, and I know we have friends that have opposing views, but I don't think I could be friends with a Myron. I couldn't continue to say my good friend. I don't see how that could work. Could we be friends?
My good friend. Good friend.
My good friend.
Yeah.
Good friend. How do you do that? I'd love to see what type of person, or that type of, I don't know what his sexuality is. I would like to see what type of person.
I was asking that question about that as well. I mean, Ta-Nehisi was actually in an interview really talking about he has now decided he cannot be friends with anybody that has an absolute opposing worldview to him. He's like, it doesn't make sense. And it really got me thinking, I'm not around anybody that has an extreme opposing worldview at all.
Yeah.
But before really thinking about it, I wouldn't have immediately been like, oh no, I wouldn't discount them. Actually, I was like, I probably wouldn't discount the person. But then afterwards, I was like, no, I probably would, because I'd think you were mad. I couldn't have a raging racist like Lily or whatever her name is saying the stuff that she said, and I can be like, yeah, but that's my brethren. I'd really think you're literally insane, and an insane person like that, they scare me, like a mad person talking to themselves down the street. It's not. There's a middle ground of we don't have to agree, but in a way, I still have to have respect for you. And I couldn't respect Myron. I'd be like, you're an absolute. He's a beg. He was in a room with white supremacists, begging friend with them. And one of them was like, if we took over the country, you are the first person that we would send back home. And he still stayed in the space with them. And it's literally like, I can't take somebody who doesn't have respect for themselves.
Yeah.
At a bare minimum. just a bare minimum.
We don't have to agree on everything, but our core values and what we hold dear in terms of how you treat people and like what you think about people, that needs to be the same. I cannot have someone who is fundamentally racist, who thinks colonization is great, who thinks that it's okay to be spouting negativity to people all the time. Me and you can't be brethren. It's just not possible. It's not possible at all.
It's very strange, and I don't like even to be associated, to say that, to claim that person as your good friend. I mean, how are we going out, even just going outside, and maybe that person's the greatest person, you have great fun, but outside in the streets, and it's not like you care about what everyone thinks, but I don't want to be associated. I don't want that judgment. Actually, there's some judgment I actually do mind. I do want the world to look at me a certain way to an extent. I can do what I want, but I do not or would not want to be associated with someone who's known for doing some real heinous stuff. And Myron is heinous from his Fresh and Fit podcast. Yeah. Now I think he's going out on his own. I'm not sure if that podcast still exists. But all the things that they're unapologetically saying, and what Marquette is saying about his heritage.
It irks you saying that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot, because you know my English professor mind says Marquette. You do not you. But anyway, Marquette, I'd rather say. But anyway, him talking about his genetics, that he's a dark Arab and what that means. But however, there are conversations about between sub-Saharan Africans and people who are Arab, who describe themselves as Arab, how they define themselves as African.
Yes,
all of that. So there is a conversation. So if Myron really,
like people saying that Egypt is in the Middle East,
so there's all of that conversation. So explore that.
And actually, there are fractions of Sudanese people and Somalians and Eritreans that do say we are not black.
Yeah.
And they are like, we reject that. And I guess it is the amount of mixing that has happened for them generationally, and then the persecution of Black Africans they don't want to associate with. And similarly to people in Dominican Republic, Brazil, like they just have a similar type of separation from it. So he would have to tell me, and I have that with Somalian people generally as well. I'm not saying you're Black until you tell me that's how you identify, because there are too many of them that are just like, I'm an Arab. So, yes, he's coming along and speaking on from a Black space when you're not. So it's fair he don't need to be in that conversation.
And you actually have a disdain of Black Americans as well. Like, you're not the right person to be there.
And it's absolutely also that reverse kind of, you're manipulating that, navigating that space, because you shouldn't be in it. But yet you're going to capitalize on, I'm ambiguously Black because I know that I can get into these spaces. Because trust and believe, when it dries up being anti-Black and all that type of rhetoric, like a Candace Owens trying to refresh,
yes,
the money's in it, he will do it like a rebirth, unless I'm claiming my African roots. And here we go, the new version of Myron, if it stops being lucrative, being anti-Black. So that kind of straddling the fence also is not welcome here.
This is it, isn't it? Because precisely, Candice, like moving away from that whole Christian nationalist, that the white ones that she had an affinity with, and it was all Black people just have a chip on their shoulder, until they turned on her. Now it turns to, these guys have an agenda and they're going after these free speakers, and it's like, no. And then you're going on all the Black shows.
Yeah,
absolutely not. These people, you made your bed, you must lie in it with those fellow white people who are now trying to cast you out of the bed. No, keep on fighting to get back into bed with them.
Don't get sent to get deported. Let's carry on.
This is the thing. I do want to go back to the Give for Send Go guy, just to get a perspective on that debate platform.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so William says that's basically all of history. That's all of human history, bud. The point is to draw a line under it all and evolve a bit. Currently, we are 100% going backwards. Yeah. And I see people talking about this like, at some point we need to have like a kind of ground zero of it all, and then we just occupy some utopian space of moving forward. Now that may not be what you're saying, William, but there is an argument that I see people talking about. Like, let's not talk about the history of racism, and let's try and have a ground zero point of let's move forward from it. I don't see how you do that without reconciliation. Like, there has to, we can't just draw a line like, okay, that happened and now we're going to move forward, unless laws change, active practices change. Like, I don't like the erasure of we should just kind of like be evolved, because we're not. They're still about.
Do you know what it is? It's that we say it, I think we've discussed it in various ways, that are Black people empowered by knowing that they were enslaved, or is it better to just move on from that so that we don't have that burden. That is understandable, but everyone has to be on the same page. And so that if it is that great reset, that ground zero, then there is, and to be fair, it's inbred in us. It's our DNA. We forget that. It's not just that we rebirth and move on. In our DNA, stress, trauma. And if you speak spiritually, our ancestors, how they speak to us, how they come to us, how they communicate to us, how is that forgotten? We don't know, as physical human beings on this earth, know how to erase those feelings. How come when I'm over here and then my dad is in another country or that I never grew up with, but yet we're doing the same thing? We're so much more connected in stuff that we don't understand that we can't erase it. It's just impossible. I do understand about finding a way to be empowered and not have the burden of we were enslaved or colonized or we're this or we're that. How do you talk about that? And that kind of leads into the kind of
I think that also comes with the fact that we've never had an official apology. How can we move on from something when we are told that it doesn't exist?
Exactly.
Or to forget about it? Like I don't think that's fair. And I think what I will say is that it's important for us to recognize that we are far more than slavery and we are far more than colonization, and to look at, if we can, where we were and what we were doing before these things happened. It's important for us to learn our history. However, with that said, so much of it has been misrepresented, so much of it has been erased, so much of it has been stolen. But, you know, if you go looking, I suppose, and you reach out to the right people, you can find these resources. But you can't, as you said, Aquaria, we are carrying the trauma within our DNA of the things that we have gone through. So to be like, let's just reset and just all get on, we can't do that yet. And when we are not there yet, because we haven't received what we need to receive, which is an apology and an official, because by receiving an apology, that's how you know that these things will never happen again. By ignoring it, we don't know that it's not going to happen again.
There is exactly that. There's that. And just even throwing Ish under the bus again, I hate it when I see Black people talking about reparations, that Black people will squander it if they get monetary reparations. It viscerally pisses me off. I think I could strangle somebody if they said it in front of me. I actually like the way it enrages me that you would even fix your mouth to actually like talk like that, because for even a monetary compensation to be given, so what if we squander it? At least that would come with an apology. At the very, we waste it all, we piss it all up the wall, we burn it. At least there would be an absolute admission, this happened and you deserve something. Let that happen in itself. You're an absolute agent. And I kind of liked Ish before. He's probably going to have to be an enemy of progress, because I may need to write out a whole diatribe for Ish on that point.
It's that people that try and do like the Tony Sewells who think, and think that actually that and Candace Owens and all those type of people that think that, okay, let's talk to Black people about pulling up our bootstraps and doing this and doing this. But there's nothing wrong with speaking positivity. We all are parents. We will speak positivity into our children. We will say, do not let the burdens of what's going on that happened in our past carry on your shoulder. Do not make that an excuse not to do better. That is different. You're raising and empowering. But you also tell your same children that, you know what these people did, what we came from. Use that to also understand how to inspire yourself. I'm not going to say I understand. I agree with you. Don't speak like that, and especially in a public place for people to even latch on and start saying, yeah, you see, this is the right thing to do. I understand you trying to say that, okay, let's figure out a way that we utilize this. But as you guys have said, even, do you know what? I'd actually even rate if people burn that money that came, because also it's a sacrificial offering to getting rid of the shit past. Absolutely. But get that bonfire it, and send it to your ancestors and say, there you go, ancestors, thank you, here's our money back for you, this is our reparations back to you. And that apology, I don't even like saying apology, it's accountability. And
yes, that's right.
I know what you mean by apology, but
it's a full line admission of guilt and you want to relieve yourself of that. Like it would be such a monumental thing for it to take place. There needs to be lots of different things. It needs to be money, land. I do think taxes, free taxes for an amount of time. Like, it needs to be all of those things. But to stop it in the conversation and to have Black folk seemingly black folk be like, yeah, no, it wouldn't really work. It pisses me off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Kevin has given us another £5. Thank you so much, Kevin. And he says, have you ever read the book Britain's Black Debt by Hilary Beckles? I have not. I've never even heard of this. Have you heard of this book?
I feel like it. You know, I always think I've heard of everything, but to be fair, I know Hilary Beckles. I'm just going to get the
okay.
Black Debt Reparations.
Britain's Black Debt. So interesting.
This. Oh yes, I have seen the book before. Let me just show you.
Tell us about it. Yeah, let's see. And if anybody does want to get it, please do.
Here we go. So it's Britain's Black Debt, Reparations for Caribbean Slavery and Native Genocide. I've definitely seen that book before. Since the mid-19th century abolition of slavery, the call for reparations for the crime of African enslavement and Native genocide has been growing. In the Caribbean, grassroots and official voices now constitute a regional reparations movement. While it remains a fractured, contentious, and divisive call, it generates considerable public interest, especially within sections of the community that are concerned with issues of social justice, equity, civil and human rights, education, and cultural identity. The reparations discourse has been shaped by the voices from these fields as they seek to build a future upon the settlement of historical crimes. This is the first scholarly work that looks comprehensively at the reparations discussion in the Caribbean, written by a leading economic historian of the region, a seasoned activist in the wider movement for social justice and advocacy of historical truth. Britain's Black Debt looks at the origins and development of reparations as a regional and international process, weaving together detailed historical data on Caribbean slavery. There's a lot there, so I'll stop at the next one.
This is great. Let me see if I can find it.
And the politics of post-colonialism. The author sets out a solid academic analysis of the evidence. He also concludes that Britain has a case of reparations to answer, which the Caribbean should litigate.
They should. Absolutely should.
I don't know if I can link it on Amazon. So this is Britain's debt book. I'll just put that in the link. And there you go. Anyway, I'm not going to say that. But anyway, so yeah, hadn't heard of it, but thank you for that. Any more comments before we just go on to
this? Is interesting. Okay, so just looking at Hilary Beckles, it would be great. I'm going to see if somehow we could kind of get him on in some fashion to join us online, because I think he resides in various different places, but he's generally in different Caribbean countries. Yeah. But he also is a sir. And I have questions. I have questions as to why he took that sir title. But it's an interesting one. I think I definitely will actually get this book on my Kindle and see.
Yeah. And I think William Jackdaw just says, yeah, I've been thinking the risk of slavery is definitely not dead. It's out there. Because the minute they apologize, as this is what we know the minute you apologize, things have to be set in motion. Your admission is admission of guilt. So then once you admit guilt, here come here come where you got to pay back and resolve guilt.
And it isn't just about money as well. It's about laws and it's about all types of things.
Everything. The whole capitalist structure and pillars that these fools on Piers Morgan show are upholding fall down. The colonial empire will crumble for real. It crumbled once, it will crumble again, like properly. Because everything that you guys hold dear in capitalism, and even us who are party to it, it's all going to be undone. Carry on. Someone asked about the white woman on the panel. She's a journalist, and she's in quotes an ally. So she had I'm going to say liberal perspective. So she and Mark were for the conversation, and then right. So I'm just going to go into Give, Send, Go. So this is the platform where this Schllo raised her money. And this is the owner who's speaking on the reasons why the platform exists and why he hasn't taken it down, blah, blah, blah. Okay.
By Jacob Wells, he's the Christian founder of the Give, Send, Go donation site that both campaigns have been hosted on. Thank you very much indeed for joining me, Mr. Wells. First of all, your reaction to what seems to me to be a blatant hijacking of both of these fundraising host sites for different reasons, but definitely been hijacked by people for racist motivation.
No, I think that's completely correct, Piers. I do think that there was an element here that did hijack, that came at this and really became a racist, tribalist element between the two campaigns. Independently of themselves, I think that they would have existed on our platform in a whole different manner, but because of the narratives around them and the proximity to each other, they created a life of their own. And it is unfortunate, it's sad to see, because as a Christian myself, what I respect about humanity and the image of God on us, I believe that we're all valuable. I believe that people have dignity and worth, and we want to see that upheld for people, even in difficult moments. That's why our platform exists, is to share hope with people. And it's been a difficult week, several weeks of just navigating the complexity of these situations as a platform.
Oh, sorry.
Studies show that strength training burns more fat than cardio.
Okay, Ben. Okay.
But let me ask you, in the case of Shiloh Hendricks, it seems to me pretty open and shut. This is a woman on camera repeatedly using the N-word, first of all with a 5-year-old autistic child, it seems, then an adult who's filming her, doesn't care, is blatantly racist. Why should someone like that be allowed to raise any money on your site if, as you say, you are driven by a Christian purpose?
Well, that's a fascinating question. I would almost flip it around. It's like if we try to create litmus tests for everybody to come onto a platform to use it, I pretty much could guarantee nobody would pass the litmus test, because the reality of humanity is that we're broken. This was the whole principle of Jesus in the first place, is that we needed a savior, and that's what he came for.
So just to be clear, that's interesting what you just said. So you would let anybody onto your platform to raise money?
Yeah, asking.
Position.
No, the position is that there are laws that define what is legal and what isn't legal. And we adhere to the laws as the framework for what is and isn't allowed.
But inciting racial hatred is a crime, right?
Inciting racial hatred is a crime?
Yeah.
Where?
Yeah.
In the U.S.?
Yeah, it is.
I've never seen that as a law on the books, but
it is. I'm not even American, and I know it's a law on the books. You're not allowed to incite racial hatred or violence against ethnic groups based on their ethnicity. What could be a more glaring example than someone on camera calling black people the N-word?
Violence and words are two different things, and we do make a distinction of that in America. They are very clearly different things. I don't know of any law. I'd be happy for you to inform me with what that law is, because I don't know everything. I'm happy to admit that. But as has already been mentioned on the show earlier, there are needs that exist outside of the reality of that moment for Shiloh. I don't condone the behavior. Obviously, we didn't see the actual behavior that was accused in the moment.
Here we go. Here we go.
Of a kind of baited moment.
And she carries on using the N-word to a black person with impunity. That's a racist.
Yeah, well, she might have some racial elements. I don't know. I don't know Shiloh
some
personally.
Racial elements. She uses the N-word repeatedly to a black man, and she doesn't deny having just used it to a 5-year-old black child. I'm not sure what more evidence you need that this person's a racist. And my question for you is simply, where is that line for you? You say it's the law, but if somebody is literally raising hundreds of thousands of dollars to support them because they were blatantly racist, I'm just curious how that fits with the Christian ethos of what your site's supposed to be about.
Well, it fits actually very well, because we can, like I started to say, we don't operate on a litmus test of your past behaviors as far as the services that you get to provide. The moment that you start walking down the narrative that we're not going to provide you electricity, water, because we don't like you, the structural elements, the movement of money, which is a basic element to society.
So let me just ask you this. So if someone was being
he doesn't even know what he's talking
anti-Semitic,
about.
for example,
listen.
Would you allow them to raise money on your platform
You
to
said
defend
anti-Semitic.
themselves over their anti-Semitism?
We sit in a very interesting position as a platform in trying to navigate the complexities of these issues.
Yeah, so what's the answer then? What's the
you
answer?
can say things. Well, I'll say historically, we've stood on that principle of saying we're going to allow things that we disagree with.
Okay.
And we've allowed things that we completely disagree with.
Do you allow
on the
people to
platform.
do
But our
pro-abortion?
mission-
Do you allow pro-abortion fundraising?
Actually, there's two caveats to what Give and Go has carved out, and one of them is it's broken into two pieces, but it's the protection of children. So we say we're going to protect children because they don't have a voice. So we're not going to allow fundraising for abortions on Give and Go, and we're not going to allow fundraising for the transition of children.
Okay, but what about a
fundraising on
5-year-old
Give and Go.
child being? What about a 5-year-old black child being called the N-word?
What about that?
Where does the protection for that child come in?
What about the blacks?
Well, that's their parents' responsibility. That's like if my child, and I have several children, if my child was called something bad, I would take my child aside and I would tell them.
But you just said that one of the caveats.
Hang on,
you just said one of the caveats for Give, Send, Go is the protection of children. You talked about the transitioning process. You talked about abortion, which is obviously your Christian perspective on that. And I'm simply saying, why doesn't it include children being racially abused? Why is that suddenly the parents' responsibility, not yours as a platform, where you are literally enriching? You are going to make well, look, let me just spell it out to you. The way things are going, you're going to make a millionaire out of a woman who racially abused a child. And if your caveats are for
that's
protection,
incorrect.
Well, hang on. Well, you are.
Yeah, why is that incorrect?
I'm not, because one, we're a platform. We don't make donations to these campaigns. These are individuals that are making donations.
This person will
of their
become a
own volition.
millionaire
This is
because
not
of your
Give and-
platform.
No, it's not because of our platform. They could send checks and they could send money a million different ways to individuals.
But they're using your platform
avenues.
And you've already said to me you carve out things because you want to protect children. I'm just curious, why is racially abusing a child not one of your carve-outs?
Well, what the campaign is fundraising for. So we have to make a distinction between what happens on Give, Send, Go and then what happens outside of Give, Send, Go. Because we can't police everything that happens outside of Give, Send, Go. All that we can police is what happens on Give, Send, Go. So the two instances that I gave were about campaigns that if they were created on Give, Send, Go, that we would, for those scenarios, we would prevent. But things that happen outside of Give, Send, Go, we can't police around. So does someone have the right to raise funds for their security, for their protection, because they've been doxxed, because of a snapshot moment, because everyone has a camera in their pocket? And today, we can see the outworking of this. 3 years ago in New York City, in the middle of the city, there was an altercation between a woman and a black man over bird watching and dogs. And her name was Amy Cooper. And to this day, 3 years later, she hasn't been able to find a job.
Because she was racist.
A bad mistake.
She lied.
The wrong thing in a particular moment.
Well, she
where
racially abused him. She racially
recorded.
abused him. If you racially abuse people, you are made accountable for your actions.
So for the rest of your life,
Actually,
of
you
your
know
life,
what? If you call black people the N-word and racially abuse them, unfortunately, yes, it has consequences. Probably for your professional life,
no, I'm not saying,
for the rest of your professional life.
We understand that there are consequences. Yeah. I understand there's consequences. What I'm saying is what you're advocating for, it seems, is that for the rest of Shiloh's life, she should be pushed into the recesses of society, and that she should not have a voice, that she should be canceled and silenced. This is what drives people to suicide. And it's this cancel culture mantra that thinks that the best way forward as a society is to cancel them rather than try to bring some redemption into the situation. And for Give, Send, Go, our purpose and our hope is not that we agree with every single campaign. It's why we started a prayer team at Give, Send, Go. We actually call every campaign owner and we pray with them. And we actually talk them back from the ideological edges that they find themselves in by saying, you know what, there's a God that loves you. You don't need to get into this tribal space. You need to focus on rebuilding that relationship with him, because that's the fabric for a principled and moral nation.
Here's the flaw with Shiloh. Here's the flaw with Shiloh Hendricks. She, in her message left on the donation site, it goes on, sentence after sentence, playing the victim. She never once mentions that she repeatedly used the N-word. It doesn't exist in her description of the victimhood statement she puts out there. So it's incredibly disingenuous, because people who read that will not realize, if they don't know the story, that she racially abused a child and then an adult in a most horrific manner. And I'm curious for you, as a company, you take, I believe, tips and donations from each of the donations that come in. Is that how the system works?
The system works on voluntary donations.
Okay.
So the only thing that we receive
just
as
out of
revenue
interest,
from
of the $600,000 plus that have now been raised for her, how much have you guys made, Give, Send, Go, from that money? Presumably you know, right?
I actually don't know. I haven't
Of
kept track
course
of what the donations to that campaign in particular to Give, Send,
But do you
Go
feel
are.
comfortable? Do you feel comfortable making money out of that?
What I feel comfortable doing is last week flying out to Detroit, Michigan, and stepping into somebody's brokenness who had a campaign on Give, Send, Go because their car was stolen and another car was in an accident and they found out that their 3-year-old had cancer.
Well, it's a different story. It's a different story completely.
And it's a completely different story, but it's a reality of what we use the funds from Give, Send, Go for.
The bottom line is you're making, I don't know, tens of thousands, maybe more, out of a particular part of your site that has been set up by a racist who was proudly racist on camera repeatedly. And you say you want to protect children, but the reason that she is so infamous is she originally, in that exchange, racially abused a child. And you might laugh and smirk
you know what?
and smile,
None of
but
us.
I don't find any of that funny.
You keep jumping. Yeah, I don't think it's funny either. You've put me in a position to try to defend Schllo, which I have no defense for Schllo. I don't defend calling a child something like that. What is very evident is that, one, we don't have video of her doing any of those things outside of the post video. So
where she literally uses the N-word repeatedly, and she doesn't deny using it against the child. In fact, she makes it clear she did do it because he was behaving like one, she said.
Yeah.
So I don't know why you're being so mealy-mouthed about it.
So
the bottom line is she's obviously a nasty racist. She's proud of being a racist. She admitted being a racist, and we heard her being a racist. There is no doubt about what happened. What you're trying to do is cast a little bit of doubt, if you don't mind me saying, because it helps your corporate position, which is you're making a ton of money out of a racist who is going to be a millionaire out of being a racist because of your platform.
If you think allowing this campaign helps our corporate position, come on, Piers.
You know what would help you corporately? If you were genuinely true to your mission statement as a Christian site, that you want to protect children, and you were big on that at the start of this interview, I want to protect the kids, then you would remove her site immediately once you had established in your own brain that she racially abused a 5-year-old, which, by the way, she admits to doing, right?
Yeah.
So you could just do that like that.
Yes.
Yeah, no, we could do a lot of things, but in the country that we live in, there are certain fabric elements that make this America what it is, and they need to be defended. So
free
just
speech
because
one of
people
them?
have upset feelings.
Here we are.
Free speech, freedom of expression.
Really? And yet, because Mr.
freedom of
Wells, unless I'm
association.
mistaken, you have now removed the ability to comment and removed all the comments on this particular donation
Get him,
site.
Piers, get him.
Where's the free speech rights of those people who commented?
Yeah.
Or are you just a hypocrite?
Yeah.
Well, recognize what free speech is. Free speech is a prohibition against the government enacting laws to prohibit your speech.
You literally
It's
just
not
made
a
you just literally
prohibition
just
from
made a speech talking about freedom of expression and free speech, but you've removed all the comments from here. Why are you suppressing and censoring people's right to free speech to comment on these sites?
We have, as a private business, the right to operate our business the way that we
You have the
want
right to
operate
suppress
our
free
business.
speech. I don't dispute it. I'm just curious why you pretend to be this great defender of free speech when you're literally doing the opposite.
No, what we saw very clearly in this situation was a campaign for Carmelo Anthony, and on the back of it, a campaign for Schllo, and they were competing off of each other, and they were in a cycle a vitriolic tornado of sorts, and we said we need to put some calming effect on this by removing the back and forth element that's going on in this particular situation. It wouldn't necessarily have happened if these campaigns were completely independent, months, years apart from each other.
As a Christian again, look, as a Christian again, because I'm told that the Give, Send, Go site for Luigi Mangione, who we saw allegedly executing a healthcare boss in cold blood. I don't think there's much allegedly about it, but we'll let the process take its course. He's got nearly £1 million for his defence via your site, and you know it's sort of odd, isn't it? Is it not an inconsistency in your Christian position on this? That on the one hand,
it shows your lack of understanding.
Let me ask you the
Christian
question.
faith
Let me ask you the question. On the one hand, if you want anything pro-abortion on your site, that's a no-no because you're all pro-life, and yet on the other hand, you're helping a bunch of alleged murderers raise millions. Do you not see an inconsistency with your Christian hat on?
Well, it just actually goes to the shallow misconception of Christianity that you have, and I would implore you, Piers, to go after reading the Bible for what it says. That the number one critique of Jesus
not kill
by the
is
religious
ringing
leaders,
quite loud in my head.
The number one critique of Jesus by the religious leaders of the day was that he hung around with the prostitutes, the drunkards, and the sinners. He was the guy that went to the lowliest of low places, and he actually shared hope in the midst of the worst places. We find ourselves in a very similar situation, and our goal at Give, Send, Go is to share hope to people in the midst, and part of that is navigating how we do it. We have a prayer team that calls people and prays with them, actually shows them that they're valuable. We have an initiative, like I was mentioning earlier.
All right, but the bottom line, Mr. Wells, I appreciate you coming on, but the bottom line is the reality of the situation is that if you racially abuse a kid, you can become a millionaire on your site and you won't stop it happening. And if you kill somebody or allegedly kill somebody, you won't stop that happening either. But with your Christian hat on, if somebody wants to put anything up that's pro-abortion, whoa, not having that, Gov.
God is like, no!
I had to let you see. When I watched it, I was
oh my God!
Wild. And you know, when you back organizations and on the front of it, Christian, Give, Send, Go. Oh my God, you're going to go for it and think when you do your research, you cannot trust anyone that runs a business at this point. However, it's very important to hear this is what is happening. This is the company. This is the man.
Did you know? Yeah, that he could not say that if someone wanted to say something anti-Semitic, that he would allow them on his platform. Right. He could not say that. He could have just said, yes, well, we believe in protecting the people and blah, blah, blah. He could not say it. Kevin! Thank you, Kevin!
Yes, I am familiar with reparations activism of Esther Stanford Solsay.
Yes. Same.
Mr. K, guys, I don't know why you're not being inspired by Mr. Kevin.
Be more like Kevin.
Be more Kevin.
AKA Mr. K.
Thank you very much, because we are not a fake Christian platform.
Yeah, right. He couldn't say it. He was saying everything else, but he couldn't say that. It's just hilarious.
Just to come to Elon's point, he's making the victim the offender by using Davo, deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. And he literally was doing that. Like I was, as he was talking, I was like, this is it. I don't care. It has to be a parasite. It works the same in everybody. Like they have to be like, we didn't see what happened before. Yeah. We didn't see what took place after. She now is a victim. Like, so she must be punished forever. Like and then to go into the whole thing of, I don't think this is a crime. It's a crime to. I was literally like, no. What is going on in this man's head?
And then to top it off, to use the bird watching account. What did
he call it? A confrontation?
Yes.
He said it was
an altercation.
Listen, because also he's using that information. And I don't know where he's got his update from. And just literally a quick Google for her. Central Park Karen. And guys, if you don't understand what happened, she confronted a black.
Play the clip.
Actually, let me say. Okay, let me play
this.
It's
up there. Play the clip.
Okay. Videos. Let me go to YouTube. It's one of those kind of thing. Keep talking amongst yourself.
I cannot even. Well, no, this would all fit into his patterning. For the actual you're making me defend Schllo. I don't want to defend Schllo, but in every iteration I'm defending Schllo that she should be now. It doesn't matter what she did because we don't know if she was actually being racist, although she literally called the child on video to the kid's face. She did all of that, but either way he's saying that didn't happen. So you've done that, you've shown us this, and you're still being like, but even still, Schllo now can't get a job. Schllo has children. We should be looking after Schllo. There was nothing in that whole speech of, and if the Black Charles family, we would happily host his rehabilitation as well. There was no balance. It's all for the white woman.
What he said, Nana, is, well, it's the Black kids' family's responsibility to take that child aside and to say to them, oh, don't worry about these words. Basically, that's what he's saying.
That's basically what he's saying.
You can do a campaign too, and that'll be fine. He didn't say that.
He actually was blaming the parents. If the child has any damage, it's that little kid's parents' fault, not Schllo for doing the racial abuse. She, as a white fairy woman, she deserves to be a millionaire.
1 second, rewarding bad behavior. Thank you, 5 from the side.
Thank you, 5 from the side.
Thank you so.
Thank you, sister.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
The original AK.
Yes, big AK.
Yeah, the original AK.
Only one person's allowed to be the original AK, and it's that. So as I reference Central Park Karen, let's play the story. This is what happened, guys. This is who he's feeling sorry for.
To that confrontation that was caught on camera, sparking outrage overnight. A white woman calling the police after a Black man says he asked her to leash her dog in Central Park. TJ Holmes joins us with what they're both saying this morning. Good morning, TJ.
There's an African-American man threatening my life. Robin, those are the exact words this woman used in a frantic manner on 911. And so much of the outrage you mentioned, Robin, that is there this morning has to do with what many people perceive as her attempt to threaten and weaponize the police against a Black man.
This on-camera confrontation making headlines overnight.
Please take your phone off.
Please don't come close to me. You're hearing the voice of 57-year-old Chris Cooper, who says his request for this woman to keep her dog on a leash quickly escalated.
Can I take a picture calling the cops?
Please call the cops. Please call the cops.
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Please tell them whatever you like. Once she's on the phone with 911, you can hear her tone change.
There is an African-American man. I'm in Central Park. He is recording me and threatening myself and my dog. I'm being threatened by a man in the ramble. Please send the cops immediately.
Cooper says he was bird watching in Central Park just after 8 a.m. on Monday when he came across the woman with her dog unleashed against park rules.
I said to the young woman, I said, dogs in the ramble have to be on the leash at all times.
Cooper claims she refused. That's when he says he used treats to try to lure the dog away from some plant beds just before he began recording.
They don't like it when you feed their dog treats. And she didn't like that at all. And she immediately grabbed the dog, as you can see from the video, and started hauling it around by its collar.
New York police confirm officers did respond to a reported assault, but says there were no arrest or summons issued for what they described as a verbal dispute. Speaking to a local New York station, the woman in the video apologized to Cooper, saying, "It was unacceptable, and I humbly and fully apologize to everyone who's seen that video, everyone that's been offended, everyone who thinks of me in a lower light, and I understand why they do." Adding that she was fearful because she says before the video began, Cooper had been yelling and offering her dog unknown items. The video quickly taking over Twitter's trending topics with more than 130,000 tweets, many calling for the woman to be fired. And overnight, her employer announced on Twitter that she will be placed on administrative leave pending investigation, adding, "We take these matters very seriously and we do not condone racism of any kind."
And the dog in that video, the woman has now returned it to the rescue where she got it. A lot of people pointed out her treatment of the dog in that video, and the rescue says it's now in their possession and in good health. And Robin, of course, after incidents in the past, we've seen hashtags driving while black, walking while black, sleeping while black. Well, yes, bird watching while black is now a topic being talked about on Twitter.
Yeah,
and somehow
it was bandied about on Twitter, and it was just a reaction from people.
This woman who could have had this man killed, because if the police had shown up and seen him there, they could have killed him, because that happens all the time in America. Yeah, we should feel sorry for you. You broke the law because you should have had your dog on a leash. He asked you to put your dog on a leash, and then you responded by basically screaming and doing the best Oscar-winning performance ever into the phone, saying, "I'm being attacked by a black man."
Yeah.
Life
It was bird watching. I did hate that he did forgive her.
Yeah.
But okay, cool. Whatever you got to do.
And this Christian charity platform owner is using her as an example of what we shouldn't do, and that we should let her, you know, continue on her life. And look what's happened to her. And isn't it unfortunate? Okay.
It's a running theme. I was watching a report on a guy in America who is being freed after 40 years of being imprisoned off of two twins saying that they were great in a park.
Yes,
and
I saw that.
In the comments, because now the white family are talking about, oh, yeah, but we suffer from anxiety, even though their medical reports show that they probably was not raped in any way, shape or form. There were still people being like, these poor white women that have to live with their guilt that this man went to prison. Had nothing to do with the dude. There was too many comments saying these poor white women and what they've got to live with. They're going to die with that guilt. At no stage could they not have just raised their hand and been like, bro, listen, all we were doing was frolicking with our cousin. Like, the man was in prison for 40 years and we should feel sorry for their burdens. Absolutely not. This is what they do. You create a system where we should be considerate and fearful of white tears. Like, we should not have a white person cry ever or suffer.
Yeah, basically, you guys it's absolutely wild. And the fact of the matter is, this incident happened in 2020, and the New York Times post that I saw that said she still hasn't been able to find a job after 3 years. That's in 2003. So this guy using it as a reference. Do you even know that, or are you just spouting headlines to say that he said she hasn't been able to find a job for 3 years? We are now in 2025. So if you got your facts right, that would be 5 years if she's still unemployed. Have you even checked in with her? Do you actually even know where she is? So don't try. You're just remixing headlines to back your very weak points.
Does she even want a job? If she is unemployed, does she even want to work? We don't know any of that stuff.
We don't know anything about her. And what type of job? And it could be, maybe you're not going to get a corporate job because the brands and stuff don't want to be associated with you, but can you actually not get a job? Let's get the facts. Maybe you can't get the job that you want in a specific area, but the world is huge and there's a lot going on. And maybe your actual personal anxiety isn't up to par, so you can't deal with it. So you can't, and that's a consequence. I don't wish ill on humans at large at that. Yes, there's an argument to be said, because we talk about redemption and learning from your mistakes. I'm not going to say that I don't say that. So I don't think that I can say that I'll afford that to everybody or certain people. But everyone should have the chance to learn from the mistakes. But you don't reward them. You do not reward them for their bad behavior. You give them a chance to learn. And
what I will say with this woman, the bird watching woman, what I will say, at the very least, she apologized for her bad behavior. At the very least. Schllo is out here acting like nothing.
Yeah.
With her
Schllo is absolutely like, I'm being hounded. People are wild, and I need to be able to move my family. Like, there is nothing to, I did this to a child. Yeah, I'm so sorry for what I did, but it's been escalated. There was a moment of I was heated. There's none of that. It's, I need to move because these flipping ferals are coming after me. And then all the white people, Avengers, assemble and start sending you money. And she's going to be a millionaire. Yeah. She is. If it all comes out, you know, there is such a strong campaign for not just the platform to not release the money, but for Stripe and all of the actual card people like if you start releasing the money, then they are going to be boycotted. And I hope it gathers pace where people are like, you know what, we're not actually going to release the money, we're going to do refunds. Maybe that will be something. She's still going to get a lot of money, but maybe not all of it.
Yeah. As the founder said, no, as Piers was saying, her description doesn't mention what she's done. And though that's not necessarily going to sway people because they're galvanized to support her, but at the very least, real. I called a little autistic black child mistakenly because also, even if the child doesn't even have to have alternative abilities, the child could just be 5 years old and is running a handbag that they've seen or whatever they were doing, playing with toys. Kids do that. And that's, again, not even to say that sometimes you go to the park with your kid and there are other kids that have not been raised and they're annoying and stuff like that. But that does not give excuse for adults with their faculties to say, call that child, whatever ethnicity, some derogatory term because they've got on your nerves. Even if the child was annoying, even if the child at 2 5-year-olds are getting into it, fighting, maybe one child's a bit too of a bully or too aggressive, you either remove yourself from the situation, you speak to the adults, but you don't turn on the child. Let her have an explanation, the truth in her description about what happened, and then at least have a fair opportunity starting point to why people are donating from you. And someone said that they think it's in backlash to the Carmelo. It is. It's like it's not. It's that's what the founder was saying, that he turned off the comments because it turned into, and I think they mentioned it on the actual discussion on the panel, that it turned into just both sides just going at each other and trying to come at each other and saying like Carmelo as a representative of black life, black empowerment, and Schllo as a representative of white supremacy and reclaiming back their privilege that they feel that they've lost. So,
but she capitalized on that. Like the first set of TikTok videos kind of championing her, it did follow on from that. It was like, this is our chance, because it was already trending, the whole Carmelo thing anyway. So they always wanted, and that's how it goes. They always want something else to jump on, to be like, let's do our thing here. It is for the Christian nationalists. They will do it. It's the Lilies. They will jump on something and be like, here is our rally cry to get in there. It's like a white person will kill a black kid and it'll be like, let's give them money now. Like they will do that. They're always dog whistling to each other. It's not the same though, because as a black child, coming from a family, and yes, they've done this crime, all you want is them to have good representation so that they're not then placed as 17, placed in prison for the rest of their lives, which could happen. But now a middle-class white kid or an upper-class white kid who does the same may only get 20 years because they have good defense. That's the thing. It's not he gets off. It's let's give him a sentence for the crime that he's committed so that he isn't just fed into prison for the rest of his life. And they do that. That's why there is a rallying. It's very different. And it's just, and they know this, but because they have this parasite feeding in their brain that is rotting it away, that wants to survive.
I think you're right.
It wants to survive as well.
Let's get some comments. Is there anything? First of all, let me just address the Untold magazine. It's an old school magazine. It's 3 kind of Bond babes next to Samuel L. Jackson. And it's for the film Shaft. It's when the film Shaft was coming out. So
hang on, Untold. Who was the director of that? Is that Peter Kinte or is that Tues's magazine?
I can't remember. Untold was. I can't remember. Honestly, I need to.
I remember. I used to buy Untold. Untold, Touch.
Yeah, and there was Suede that came out, and that was revolutionary. And
the big one.
Untold,
I feel like Untold was the one that I'm sure that was Peter's magazine. Yeah. I feel like that was one of the ones I wanted to style for, but I managed to do Touch, Rewind.
Me too.
There was another one as well. There was another one that came along at that time. I have a few of them as well.
Trace magazine. Trace. It's Trace. Trace.
That's it.
Trace magazine. Yeah. Yeah, but that's what it is. I know it looks a bit sexy, but it's just some beautiful black women around Samuel L. Jackson. That was that. So let's get some other comments. Oh, Strike 22 says your aunties could never. Did you know after all these white women reporting things, they actually made a Karen Act in the States to try and prosecute white women that falsely report people? I mean, to be fair, there was a spate of it. I'm sure it hasn't died down, but it's come out of the news cycle as regularly. But this is the thing that we were speaking about, this psychosis where they just go nuts and feel so entitled and want to encroach in people's. And sometimes, yeah, maybe you want to report because it's like, listen, I might get my Karen on when to people on the tubes who let their phones just play. I might get my Karen on, but I'm also not.
There's a difference between
business.
But there's a difference between having a conversation with a person and saying, "Can you not do that?" and having like a back and forth to a person, to then getting on the phone and acting like you're being attacked, so that the police can come and do something to somebody. That is a massive difference.
Yeah. Moaning kind of can just come along with age and seeing a lot, and your ears being sensitive to. It's very different. And that's the thing where when I say Karen, I think it's a specific to a demographic of people that escalate situations to beyond. It's just not necessary.
Yeah.
And Schllo, why are you swearing at the kid? Even if you were super frustrated, even if you wanted to call the boy a thief, but when you escalate it to now, I'm going to actually be calling you the N-word to a little child, and I'm fuming. And as he said, what were you going to do? Because it looked like you were chasing after the kid. So what were you going to do? Like, you were going to beat the child as well? Right? Like,
that unnecessary anger rage, you got to deal with it. I think Strike 22 said, don't call it a parasite. Don't make excuses for shitty people. And also, I wanted to also get
I think there has to be, we need to look into this. It is an infection because it seems to want to live on, and it's not reasonable. I'm telling you, when they start studying brains, and they used to do that to black folk.
Yeah, they
would actually be studying what was in our brains. I think they need to do that to white people, because I do think there is something that seeps in and it replicates itself because it wants to keep on living. That they all seem to have similar thought processes, ways of talking, and it doesn't matter where they are in the world. When you watch people in Israel talking, it's similar. There has to be something. There is something in there, and don't call it demonic. I'm calling it a parasite. There is something.
I think
bizarre.
It's so bizarre that they can look at something. Let's take this for an example, right? They can look at white South Africans and say that they are being racialized, and say that their lands are being stolen, their historical lands are being stolen from them, and they're being attacked, right? And then they can look at someone in Israel who is attacking Palestinians and say that that's okay. But the Palestinians are not the victims. The Israelis are the victims. But in South Africa, the white people are the victims and the black people are the persecutors. It is so bizarre to me that there has got to be something with those types of people who think like that, because there's no rhyme or reason and there's no rationale with them. They just don't see something that is plain as day. They cannot see it.
Yeah,
they can't. It's bizarre.
And moving on to because someone said it again also, that they are now raising money for the little boy, and fine, all of that is, I'm not going to talk on that. But what Mark was saying in the Piers Morgan conversation was that we're now developing a GoFundMe industrialization thing. I can't remember how he said it so succinctly, but there's now, like the prison complex, is it complex, industrialization complex or whatever?
Yeah, it is complex.
GoFundMe industrialization complex, where now, at the drop of a hat, we're raising money. And now there's something, well, how do you lot feel about this? I think there's nothing wrong with community support, but it is also, it is also removing a lot of government responsibility in dealing with things properly, but also and then also there's that dependency on money because people are now asking for money for things that you're supposed to just get yourselves. And I say supposed to, that normally we do for ourselves. We're going to crowdfund. We're going to pay for the funeral. We're going to pay for lawyer fees. We're going to pay for school uniforms. We're going to pay for our lunch. We're going to pay for school. I've had so many DMs saying, can you share my GoFundMe because I can't afford my college, my halls fees, or I can't pay my college tuition or stuff like that. And this is in the UK. I'm getting DMs, a few saying that, can you share that on the British Blacklist? So what do you feel about the growth or the complex of GoFunding?
You know what? It does unsettle me. And from doing my parents' funerals back to back, I understand the community aspect that within the Ghanaian community is already there, that people know you ain't got to do a GoFundMe page. As standardly, you lose somebody to come and pay your respects, you give money because you know of the burden of it. There is that aspect of it, but it does ick me out when people do a GoFundMe for a funeral. I don't know. It doesn't sit well with me. Sometimes I have donated anyway, though, but it hasn't sat well with me. But the normal mundane things that people are, and when I say mundane, it is a bit of education. It's not. It's not a right to go to university, and then to make that a community thing that we should all fund into you going to university. It just doesn't sit well. I don't like this. I have a right to be here and other people need to fund me to get there. I don't like it. It doesn't sit well with me at all.
So,
I think, sorry, I was just going to say, I think with GoFundMes, yeah, they're like Ruth says, there are some of them that are scams. But what I will say, having had to pay for multiple funerals myself in my family, that we didn't do a GoFundMe, but I understand why people would. It's fucking expensive. Yeah, and we've done funerals in Grenada and we've done funerals in England, and that shit. If you're not a family that have a lot of money and it's cozy living out here, like that shit is expensive. You can get yourself into debt by having like the most basic of funerals, the most basic. Yeah. And if you go to the government and ask them for certain loans and stuff like that to do funerals or funds to do funerals, the rigmarole that you have to go through in the process is quite hard. So for when someone's doing that, or someone's doing like, for example, health treatments. If someone's suffering from cancer and they don't have the money to pay for their treatment and all of those things, I'm not opposed to anyone doing GoFundMes for those kind of reasons.
Yes.
But when someone's doing a GoFundMe because I want a new car, you know, and not to say that their car's been stolen or just some. I understand what you mean, Nana. Even like with university fees and stuff like that, like there's other things that you can do to go to university. There are. If you really want to do it, you can go part-time. You can work part-time and go to university. It's hard and it will take you longer to graduate. I did it, but you can do it. Yeah, but for me, it depends on the actual thing that is being requested. I think they can be very useful for people that are in need and have been fucked over. I think they can be very useful, but I do also see that some people are making a business out of it.
Just to go to this and see, like, I just Googled because I wanted to see what's being said about this GoFund. I landed on this. This is a 2-year-old story, however. I haven't watched it, so let's just see what they're saying here.
Today, it was a heartbreaking tale. A young woman battling both leukemia and pancreatic cancer. The cops say she wasn't sick at all. They say she was faking it to rake in thousands of dollars in donations.
I want people to live. I want to live. You know, I want there to be a cure.
That's Maddie Russo, a 19-year-old college student speaking about suffering from cancer.
They found a mass on my pancreas, and I had stage 2 pancreatic cancer at just 19 years old.
She documented her treatment in a series of heartbreaking social media posts.
Before I even started chemo, I harvested my eggs with the OBGYN. And basically it's just you're kind of like freezing your eggs.
She not only claimed to have pancreatic cancer, but leukemia and a tumor on her spine the size of a ball. She raised over $37,000 on a GoFundMe page. Lewis Frillman was moved by her plight. He donated $1,000. What struck a chord with you about her story?
She was a very young person that appeared to be in a serious amount of trouble.
And your heart went out to her.
She was totally believable.
But police in Iowa have arrested her, calling it an elaborate scam. The alleged scam was first spotted by doctors who wondered about this image that supposedly showed her getting chemo. It's not the way a medical port should look. The telltale giveaways, it's not sterile and it's not secured with medical tape. Look, this is a real medical port used for cancer patients. It's easy to see the difference. I spoke with cancer patient Anna Kauer-Kovetsky.
So the chest port is actually like
like a little port under my skin. It was inserted by a surgery.
Does it break your heart that someone would fake having this illness?
Absolutely.
Well, GoFundMe says they have zero tolerance for misuse of their platform, and they say all of those donations have been refunded.
Good. Oh my God, that's
But that's an example. Not to say that that's happening everywhere, but that's an example of how
wild.
people can.
I mean, I do have somebody that did that. I have a friend. We went to uni together, and she actually did have cancer. But the first run of her GoFundMe, because she was young when she finally passed. I think she may have been like 37 or something. So when she first got diagnosed, she did a GoFundMe, and she had 2 boys. So lots of us donated. She went on a jolly with her brethren, and it was supposed to be, I'm going to Disneyland to take my sons away to have an experience with them. She went to Ibiza with her brethren, and it all came out. Big scandal on Facebook. Then she got 2 years later, the cancer came back, and this time it's terminal. And she really does now want to put things in place for her kids. And so then does a whole other GoFundMe being like, I want to leave stuff. But who's donating to that? It's like you had the community support at first. Maybe it was like 60K that got donated to her. Second time where it is terminal now. And it's like, she was a kind of close friend. So I knew this is serious. She definitely is dying. But there wasn't the support there because you've abused it. Like you can't do a fundraiser and the community supports you and then you start doing some skullduggery. You can't do that. It doesn't work. And this is the thing with GoFundMe now. It's like you keep on getting bombarded with people sending links, support this, support that. Who's supporting anything anymore? It's been abused.
Yeah. I don't know. I just saw this. I don't know. I think it's a popular story. I was going to see if it plays.
This is why I say fathers are needed. Check this out. Y'all remember that cat who did that nonsense in Chicago with the woman in the restaurant? How he hit her all up with those haymakers in her face, right? So the family put out a GoFundMe page to help them lay him to rest, right? But I want to share something with y'all, family. If he was raised properly, okay? If he wasn't raised to do nonsense in his community, you would see people have a greater outpour to help the family. But no, because you raise nonsense, and this is the truth. Nobody else gonna tell you the truth, but I'm gonna tell you the truth, baby. Take that GoFundMe page down.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody gonna help you unless God touch their heart.
So yeah, so I don't know where she's going, but that's also an angle. This is like the whole free so and so. You make T-shirts and do free so and so with these something like no so and so. Literally, the whole neighborhood
was an absolute tyrant in the community.
A criminal actually deserved to be under the jail. Like here you go wearing your T-shirt saying free so and so and resting all this kind of stuff. And it's just that I like community spirit. I think there's something we've got our names for Susu partner, all that stuff in supporting the community, supporting your people to help them. I think there's nothing wrong with that. But when it starts to become a business and it starts to become a public trend, then it's like you don't know where it's going.
Just to say though, I don't think the majority of GoFundMe are scams. Just to say that, and it's important to do your research into what is actually being funded and who is it that is requesting it. Don't just get scroll and start giving money because you've read something. Look into the actual person, look into the things that they're saying, look into whether or not it is true. Do your investigation if you want to really give someone some money, because I know some people that have been really, really helped out by GoFundMes. So I would not like people to just assume that, every single one that's doing it is a scam, because that is really not the case.
No, I agree. I think it's exactly what you're saying. You've got to do the research but also be discerning and also just be discerning. Exactly.
And in all honesty, a scam is going to scam. Before there was GoFundMe, people were scamming in many different ways.
I just think look into it and don't feel like
that's what I'm saying. Just look into it. Don't just put it out there that the majority of them are, or don't just assume that the majority of them are scams. Assume that there are some scammers, so therefore look into it.
So guys, Ruth and people said there is no free Diddy t-shirts, lols. And that's a perfect segue into our next story. So Diddy's trial, all sorts of nonsense, high-profile names, missing witnesses, trial delays. His criminal trial for sex trafficking and racketeering has begun in New York, with jury selections disrupted by delays, celebrity mentions, and one alleged victim missing in action. The 55-year-old mogul, detained since his arrest last September, faces 5 felony charges, with prosecutors claiming he ran a decades-long criminal enterprise through his entertainment empire. Combs denies all charges and has pleaded not guilty. There's a lot of clips and videos and a lot of things that could be said about it. I don't even know which order to go in. So first of all, we could, I don't know if everyone needs an overview of like what's going on with this trial. This video is 8 minutes. I'll try to skip through it. So you get an overview, and then we're just going to go into those individual statements, like the jury has to stand, there's a missing defendant or witness, and also there's some moments about that you had for your Rotten Mango video, Nana. So we'll just go through some things on Diddy's case right now, because Diddy, we're going to find out if Diddy did it. Did he did it, or did he do it?
Diddy did that.
Diddy did it. Did he do it? Diddy did that.
I've been watching so much on this week with the jury selection. It's very interesting where this is going to land. But let's get into it.
All right.
The stand trial in New York in May. Combs had his famous white parties.
So I moved to a new neighborhood, and they were like, well, what's this guy doing moving here in East Hampton? I said, everybody, come on over to the house so y'all get to know me. You ain't got nothing to be afraid of.
Some of the alleged activity may have occurred in the later hours of those parties.
Kids have like an hour left, because this thing turns into something that when y'all get older, y'all don't want to come to.
And there are a lot of questions. What he's exactly charged with, who's going to testify, what this case is going to look like. But before we get to those questions, we want to remind everybody how we got here.
A new lawsuit filed by R&B singer Cassie.
Cassie describing the music mogul as a vicious, cruel, and controlling man.
The whole criminal case against Sean Combs starts with a civil case brought by his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, alleging that she was in an abusive relationship with Sean Combs.
And just a day after word of a settlement.
The lawsuit was settled with no admission of wrongdoing. That lawsuit settled almost instantaneously, but it gave federal prosecutors in Manhattan a window into the kind of conduct that went on, allegedly, in Sean Combs' life.
New civil lawsuits.
A series of new civil lawsuits facing new lawsuits from 6 accusers.
Once Cassie filed her lawsuit, that opened up the floodgates, and there was this avalanche of civil claims that also helped inform prosecutors as they built a criminal case against Sean Combs.
His accusers paint a dark picture of a sexual deviant who preyed on young women and men looking to make it in the industry, all of which Combs has denied.
The truth will prevail that Mr. Combs has never sexually assaulted anyone, adult or minor, man or woman.
Combs has mansions, one in Los Angeles, one in Miami, and simultaneously, federal agents from Homeland Security Investigations ended up, guns drawn, going in to both of those homes to seize evidence. They did this with a warrant. Cartons of evidence, a lot of it electronic, ended up being seized by those federal agents to help prosecutors build a case. It's on tablets, it's on phones, because according to federal prosecutors, Sean Combs liked to film himself and others in sexual situations. And a lot of these videos are going to be played at trial. And so prospective jurors are being asked if they mind looking at all of this stuff, because they may see quite a bit of it once the trial begins. Right now, Sean Combs is being housed at the federal jail in Brooklyn. It's called the Metropolitan Detention Center, and he has been there since his arrest at a Manhattan hotel. It's not a nice place. Even federal judges have complained about inhumane conditions. But Combs is in a special unit. He's housed in a dormitory-style building. Until recently, one of his dorm mates was Sam Bankman-Fried, who was convicted in a crypto fraud scheme involving FTX. Combs' trial is scheduled to begin on May 5th with jury selection. The plan is to bring several hundred prospective jurors into the federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan for as many days as it takes to seat a jury of 12 plus 4 alternates, all of whom will swear they can be fair and impartial, even if they've heard of Sean Combs. And really, who hasn't? There are no cameras in federal courts anywhere in the United States. And so this trial will not be televised, but we and a lot of other reporters will be there covering it. And that's how the public will learn not only the evidence against Sean Combs, but we'll be looking for how he reacts to it. We've seen him a lot in court, and he presents fairly upbeat. He comes in with a smile on his face, hugs for his lawyers, gestures to members of his family who have sat in court there to support him. He looks a lot grayer than he did when he was first arrested. You're in jailhouse beige, although at trial he may well be in civilian clothes. But he's treated like any other criminal defendant that we've seen. And we've been there for similar trials for Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's former paramour. We've been in that courthouse for Sam Bankman-Fried, the crypto fraudster, for Bob Menendez, the former United States Senator. All measure of walks of life come in and out of that courthouse. Sean Combs is only the latest. Combs faces 3 federal charges. Racketeering conspiracy, a RICO case, is probably the most serious and expansive and covers about 20 years of alleged criminal conduct. He also faces sex trafficking and prostitution charges. And taken together, federal prosecutors allege that for years, Combs has coerced, forced women into sexualized situations against their will, threatened them with violence if they didn't participate, and brought male prostitutes into a relationship in order to have what court records call freak-offs, which are basically sound a lot like orgies. Women, according to federal prosecutors, were put into these things. The rooms were stocked with baby oil and other supplies. There were cleanup crews in the end, IVs to help restore people physically after what they were made to do, according to the charges. And the jury is going to hear about all of that. Combs's defense team has said that the evidence so far is just an interference in the private sex life of Sean Combs. And what's depicted in videos or said by witnesses or alleged victims isn't crime, it's consensual sexual activity.
There's not the slightest inkling, according to the interviews that I've done, of anything that's coercive, non-consensual, and it was adults and consensual, and everybody who was there wanted to be there.
Will the jury buy that? We don't know. It will depend in large part on how the alleged victims testify, how they're cross-examined. But so far, the defense strategy seems to be to suggest that this was consensual activity, maybe until it wasn't, but it is not the kind of criminal activity that prosecutors portray. The only person we know for sure that will testify is Cassie Ventura. She is depicted, along with Sean Combs, in a video that CNN first obtained that shows Sean Combs kicking and dragging her through the hallway of a Los Angeles hotel back in 2016.
Combs issuing an apology video.
I mean, I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable.
Combs and his legal team have a different view of how we should read that video, how we should look at that video, but we know Cassie is going to testify about it and other experiences she says she had while in the presence of Sean Combs. There are also 3 other alleged victims whose testimony helps comprise the criminal charges. They're going to be allowed to testify under pseudonyms, and so they may not be publicly identified, but it's possible we will know who they are once we see them in open court. For people who have been following Sean Combs and the possible, celebrity side of things, I'm not sure how illuminating this is going to be, answering questions about Combs's relationships with people like Justin Bieber or Jennifer Lopez or others. We'll see how deep into it the trial gets, but for the most part, and we don't know who some of the alleged victims will testify, we don't know who they are yet, but for people who are hoping for a deep dive into the private sex life of Sean Combs, we'll get some of that, no doubt, at least as prosecutors say it was criminal. But some of the other stuff, we're not sure.
Okay. I've been seeing so much speculation, and lots of people are saying it's probably not going to be as sensational as folks think it is going to be, like what that guy was saying. That seems to be like a reoccurring theme. What I also found quite interesting about Diddy that in that excerpt they didn't go into is how many lawyers he has now. It's like 8 people defending him. And think of OJ, wasn't that like a team of like 4 or 5 or something? It just seems to be a lot of people. Like he's throwing absolutely everything at trying to get off, and that may happen depending on how the prosecution play this. He may be able, for the charges that they're putting forward, it seems like there may be like 1 or 2 that maybe, but it seems like the RICO charge, he may have a good enough defense, because how do you tie everything in? So he may not get that, but I don't know. 8 different lawyers, big boy lawyers. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets off.
But the thing is, I haven't watched too much because life, but Marc Lamont's overview is like, if you think he's getting off, then absolutely not. However, it will be, if he gets charged, how long are those charges going to take? Might be time served, so he'll just be out by default, but it doesn't mean to say he won't get charged. So getting off, how we see it, might be like you get charged, but you're going to be out because you've really time served.
Or in home arrest for something.
But the amount of having all those lawyers just actually ties into his whole bigger than life personality. Of course, I mean, why not have 20? Why not have 30 lawyers? If he could have a show, make a show out of this, he's going to. That's what it makes me think, like, you're going to do everything. So all this money and riches, I'm going to get all the baddest lawyers. And I'm waiting to see if it's actually proven that money can buy you out of everything, because money. And also, as some of the comments are saying, there's levels of, if it's absolutely like consensual sex between two, like freaky sex between consenting adults, then what are we on trial for, and all those type of things. I would like to get to the core of, if you're guilty of something, that you can buy your way out of it, and have this clearly, because we also say that black men don't get the same privileges as white men, all this type of stuff. Diddy is pushing that. He's pushing that boundary where I am a rich motherfucker, I'm flamboyant, I'm ostentatious, and I'm going to get all the lawyers to fight my case because you lot are going to see me home tomorrow. That is how he's acting.
I mean, you would, in his position, you would try and push that narrative. The having TMZ in his pocket helps, because then you have a site where loads of people are consuming their information daily, and they are also kind of backing, or at least considerably reporting what the defense are putting out there on Cassie, that this is a toxic relationship, because they know, we've all seen the video in it. So it's like, okay, this is out. And I even think that was strategic in putting that out there as well, for us to all see, to be like, so then by the time he's on trial, that's not a gotcha that for the prosecution to be like, and then there's this video, so it's already out there. And then to be like, well, they fought each other. She also was toxic in this. So it's like, okay, then you'll have a whole load of people who have been in relationships where you can't say it's directly domestic violence, because I also hit him too, and they can put that forward because they know that would, okay, if you took a snapshot at the time where I got beaten or I beat up my man, maybe you can't paint a full picture, and that's what they're going to give us the illusion of. We've all seen it, but you didn't, again, like the white thing, you didn't see what happened before, you didn't see what happened after, and she didn't leave him. And so they can cast aspersions to that was a moment in time that just happened in a couple's relationship. And then they can add in the freak offs and be like, well, she was there 10 years. And all of this, they need to have more evidence from other people other than Cassie, because they've already in effect thrown her under the bus, and they continue to do that. There needs to be more corroboration of stories to follow through on a RICO. It can't even that they only have 3 people that they're saying so far. I'm like, that's not enough.
Yeah,
that's not enough.
I mean, Harvey Weinstein, there's loads of them.
Yeah.
Loads of them. It needs to be a similar scenario. Even R. Kelly, there were loads of them.
Yeah. I'm just going to play this from Angry Mango, and she's been following
Rotten Mango.
Rotten Mango.
Angry Mango.
Sorry. Rotten Mango. She's been in the courtroom, and this is a little bit on what she said. Would you say that what Diddy's doing to the jurors?
So it's like, for anybody that knows Rotten Mango, she generally does true crime kind of summary documentary style replays of what has taken place. She has been given court access as well as a journalist. She's going to be in there. And I think this is going to be like weekly summaries. She talks about what happens in the courtroom. This is one of her first ones, and it is during the jury selection, which has been extended to next week as well, because they couldn't complete it in the time that the judge wanted it to be done. This is her findings on it. It's a really good account in its entirety for the 2 hours. But also this last part, she's talking about the jurors and what they were saying and the questions that they need to answer, which is really fascinating. But she goes into at 1:43 about Diddy, and Diddy actually seemingly performing for the jurors that are coming in. Like, he's actually ingratiating himself with them and giving the jurors, the prospective jurors, a lot of his attention, which as a celebrity could also kind of influence you. You know, it's just a human trait. You're going to want to be in favor with a celebrity, and she thinks he could be doing a little bit of that.
Okay.
And they feel like they were drugged, put something in their drinks, and then they remember, and then there were situations that people were abused, that they were taken advantage of. One juror describes the hotel video as, I saw the video of Mr. Combs and this person. I had seen a video of Mr. Combs, and it seems like this person was in the video and harm was being done to her in the video. Another says, the defendant was shown, I don't know how to describe, I think he was outside an elevator in a common hallway of a hotel. I think he just had on a towel or bathrobe on. And there was a woman. He went to get her. She ended up on the ground.
Wow.
Another juror described seeing the hotel footage as, quote, pretty much in my opinion, mostly everybody saw the video of the defendant, and I believe it was his ex-girlfriend in the hallway of the hotel. Another juror responds about what they saw prior to this. Again, the hotel footage. Yeah, it's what I remember from the news. And you have the life of somebody on your hands. So to me, that's a very difficult part.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I can do it, but it's something that I have to be very sure that person,
Yeah.
I will say that the media is reporting a lot of jurors just didn't want to be there and didn't want to serve. I actually didn't necessarily get that being in the courtroom. I think the transcripts do kind of read that way. I'm sure a lot of them just looked annoyed to be in jury duty, but they didn't. It wasn't like they were coming up with a million excuses to try and leave. They just seemed kind of like, I don't know if I can do 8 weeks because I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to have financial hardship. Like, I can't. A lot of people seemed relatively neutral, if not like, oh, yeah, I mean, I guess jury duty, right? But there was one juror where I felt, I'm like, I don't think this woman wants to be here at all. She walks in and she tells the judge she has a new scheduling conflict. Her son is graduating high school and she wants to be there. It's the second week of June. Trial is supposed to go into July. The judge starts asking her, what day? I don't recall. On a Friday?
Yeah.
I don't remember. Okay, what time of day is it? It starts, I think, around 10 or 12. And you don't know the day, like it's a Wednesday, Thursday. I don't recall. Which week is it? I can't say.
Oh.
I don't remember. Okay, well, you clearly thought about this after you did your questionnaire, but you didn't go look to see what the date was or what the time was or any of the details of the event? Well, I rely on my son to tell me these things, and he didn't yet. He says he didn't know it himself yet. But I remember when my first one was graduating, it was around this time. All right, where does your son go to school? Like, where is it? In the city? It's in Westchester. They move on, and the judge asks her if there's anything else she needs. It's like in the back of your mind, right? I felt like I made eye contact with Diddy. And of course, like, there's other things I'm thinking about. I'm taking my notes. But then in the back of my mind, like once or twice, it's like, oh yeah, this guy is famous. Like it's just like a thing, like, because you see him on TV, you see him on screens, you hear people talk about him, and then it's a reminder of like, oh, whoa, this is the same person in the courtroom. These are the same people, right? Now, I don't know. I think it would be interesting to psychologically study the jurors for that. I don't think they can, but you get what I'm saying. Of during individual questioning of the jurors, there are so many times where it looks like Diddy is trying so hard to connect with them. Maybe he just likes to connect with people. Maybe it's for his case. He would seemingly sympathetically nod his head as jurors talk about hardships that they go through. Or if a juror has an awkwardly cute or funny moment, he would sometimes smile. I mean, it's not like a big toothy grin, but he's smiling. So for example, one juror is asked if she knows any people on the Peoples and Places list. And she says, I don't, but I wish I did. And he's smiling at her.
Can you explain the People and Places list?
Okay, so there are a list of like over 100 people and places that the jurors, this is not public information, everyone on that list. The jurors have to go through and they have to tell the judge if they personally know any people or places on these lists. I'm going to go into who they are. When the group questioning takes place, at least on the second day of jury selection, Diddy pivots his chair. So the jurors come and they all sit down in the front of the courtroom on the right side. So now they're like directly in front of us because we're on the right side. And they're facing left. So we see their side profiles. Diddy sees, like, if he twists, he'll see all of their faces. And it's tiered, you know, so it's rows. And he's just giving them undivided attention. So they have a mic and they go one by one and they rapid fire. Like, I'm 34, this is where I work. They have to answer a list of questions that they're given. And then they pass the mic and the next person and the next person. At points, he's craning his neck to get a better look at the jurors while they're speaking. When someone makes a joke, he genuinely giggles like they're at a dinner party. And I'm like, I was just thinking in that moment, and I think this is unrelated, but how does that affect jurors? Because at the end of the day, I think psychologically humans are somewhat drawn to people that are perhaps famous.
Yeah, in a way, he's giving them this attention, right? Does that like psychologically
play
influence?
anything? Yes, because
and then I guess also like the whole thing is they're supposed to be non-biased.
Yes.
They're trying to not to judge him innocent until proven guilty. And then he's here being a really good sport, charming, who's laughing at their jokes, devoting his attention to them. Does that change their view of Diddy?
And I know what people are going to say. They're going to say, if I was on that jury, it would not change my view, right? But you wouldn't get to that point. Because you would have been weeded out if you're biased against Diddy to that level. So coming from like if they're a neutral, unbiased stance, does that even play a role? I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's valid. That's a good point.
There is another moment during group questioning.
I thought that was an interesting point.
They have adult.
No, it is.
I thought that was an interesting insight because obviously there's no cameras and there are few people that are really documenting it like how she is. So there's lots of people tweeting, but to be self-reflective afterwards and really sit down and be like, hang on, so this is what he's doing. That to me just sounds like, of course that is going to influence somebody. Of course they are going to be like, oh my God, oh, he laughed at my little dit. Even if you put it to one side, but when it comes to judgment now, you may be a little bit more lenient, like, it's not so bad.
Yeah, because absolutely, absolutely, it's that connection. You're like, that's Diddy, and he smiled at me. You're going to carry that no matter what. And it's also the desensitive, because and again, I'm not saying this to defend Diddy, but I think human beings, there's a disconnect of what you actually think happens in the court, because we've got so much TV versions of what happens in the courtroom. It's all very intense, it's all very punchy, it's all like this. This has been a long time. So even Diddy himself, and it's not defense of him, this is like, even if we know, we assume to know that he's a manipulator, we assume to know that he's a charming motherfucker, or definitely that. But the disconnect to being in the courtroom, or I was just sitting there thinking, I wonder if would I be looking. And if I'm forcing myself to keep my head down or be sad, am I acting? Because no matter what, the one time that I've been in court, I was so emotional I couldn't stop crying most of the time anyway. But then also there's times when I'm just trying to just look neutral. I'm thinking, if I smile, am I going to be judged? If I look angry, are they going to think I'm lying? So there's all these type of behaviors that you are going to assume you're on display. So where do you resign? If someone's making a joke, and if your juror, prospective juror, in your case, makes a joke, Are you going to react, or are you going to look stoic? Are you going to look angry? Are you going to try? What do you do in those moments? And this is not. This is maybe away from Diddy.
But he would definitely. He has 8 people now, but at one stage he had 5 working with him for months. They have done the biggest trials in American history to date. The team he has, they absolutely have gone through everything that he needs to do to appear psychologically sound.
Yeah.
While he's sitting there, they're telling you at each moment.
Yeah, what to do.
He's been coached thoroughly, and he's in there. You still, you can still go through psychological profiles. He could do that own research himself.
Yeah.
As the team, they know the type of people that they want to select. So he would be coached in, this is how you want to appear to this type of a person. If they respond to you, then we know that they fit this psychological profile. Like they would be going through all of that. This would be so meticulous we need to get a jury that is going to be quite sympathetic and slightly cynical to the evidence that is put forward. If you look engaged in this, they are going to be like, maybe he deserves a second chance. Just as a human. So he knows what he's doing. You'd be every moment, everything you do. It's his life, isn't it?
Yeah.
If he gets convicted, you're not seeing daylight again. You're not being out again. So you're going to. He's been an actor before, playing the role of your lifetime.
I mean, you've just got to look at him on the red carpet. He knows how to work it.
Yeah.
What to do.
Yeah.
So.
I haven't watched this full. They're saying that the jury will not be seated. Why is that? I don't understand. I didn't even know that was a thing through the whole trial. That's weird. But anyway, this is what Diane. Here we go.
Today in the Sean Diddy Combs trial, court started this morning with 45 potential jurors. The lawyers had hoped to cut that down to the final 12 plus 6 alternates, but now that'll have to wait until Monday. Let's bring in investigative reporter Olivia Rubin for more. Olivia, we initially thought a jury would be seated Wednesday, then it was Friday, now it's Monday. What's going on?
What did you think?
That's what I was totally like. What did you mean by seated? You thought they were going to need to be standing up, where she's using the term seated for in situation, basically, that we're going to know who the jury is.
They're just standing up throughout the whole trial.
The term went over my head. I'm like, seated? But like I said, I was like, what do you mean seated? They're not going to be seated.
Yes.
Anyway, okay, that's that.
Because it took them longer. And another thing to note, just for anybody that is following, and it's being documented a lot, that so many people that were presented as jury that could be a part of the jury, they also had various different domestic violence and sexual assault as a part of their histories as well. And that's been noted. So they couldn't discount those people because there were so many of them.
Yeah, you've got to go through. You've got to go through
this is it.
Group of
Yes. It's just alarming that there are so many people that have had some form of sexual assault in their life as well. And I guess just having so many jurors go through and it being widely documented, people were able to see that being demonstrated in real life.
And then they're saying they're unable to contact a key witness.
Trial for Sean Diddy Combs begins. Prosecutors are having trouble contacting one alleged victim. The trial for the disgraced media mogul entered its early stages May 5th, with jury selection happening over the following days. According to NBC News, lead prosecutor Maureen Comey told U.S. District Judge Arun Subramanian the prosecution had been unable to contact a witness identified as victim 3 in the indictment. According to the outlet, while prosecutors claim the unnamed woman, who reportedly previously said she'd wanted to use her real name while testifying despite the option to use a pseudonym, has, quote, very personal and explosive details about abuse she allegedly suffered under Sean Diddy Combs. Comey told the judge, however, that the prosecution has been unable to make contact with the woman's lawyer and that they're unsure the woman would even show up in court if they are even able to make contact or issue a subpoena to do so. Attorney Tenny Garagos, who is on the defense team for Diddy, asked that her team receives an answer on victim's 3 appearance by May 9th, per NBC News. In September, Diddy was arrested and charged with racketeering, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. The 55-year-old has pled not guilty to his charges and has denied any wrongdoing.
You know what? Tisa actually has a follow-up to this. If you look on Tisa Tells, I just saw it has been, this is what Tisa is saying, that the judge has confirmed that victim 3, who they couldn't find, is Gina Hun. Gina Hun is the woman that went on to Tasha K and did say that Diddy had abused her while they were in a relationship, that he beat her several times. She did take that back though afterwards. Apparently, allegedly, Diddy may have paid her some money for that. But it may seem that she could be back again as well.
And sit down and shut the door. Listen, I just did an amazing live. Go check it out if you need to clean the house or conditioner here. Listen, it's a good one. However, for those of you guys that want the quick 10-minute recap, oh my God, Judge Aaron just basically confirmed that Gina Hun is victim 3. And baby, we have the evidence. On top of that, he let us know about producer 1, victim 1, who victim 4 was. Y'all, this is explosive. I want to apologize to Judge Aaron for ever doubting him because, baby, you are 2 seconds on Diddy's AF. And baby, we love to see it. Okay, you guys, first of all, Gina Hun is pretty much confirmed to be Dum victim 3. That is literally now saying that they never wanted to testify and they never wanted to do this. This explains why Justin Combs was like, thank you, God, for saving us. And this explains why Diddy is pushing forward. And this also explains why victim 3 is missing. Diddy probably got her out there floating on the island in the middle of anywhere. The only thing is, Diddy, you didn't. The feds also got private jets. And baby, they can go and pick her up off the beach or wherever she thinks she's chilling. You guys, if you don't know, I went through, Diddy got his butt handed to him in court. There was a motion to suppress evidence, okay? The judge denied the motion. However, in the denial, if you read through it, and I read through it for an hour, he gave us key information. Most importantly, it looks like victim 3 is Gina Hun. Let's get into why we think this is, and let's get into it. And then we'll go into who victim 4 is, victim 3. We already know who victim 1 is, and producer 1. So listen to this. Victim 3. Now, this is heavily redacted, okay? But there's still enough information to let us know who it is. We already know that victim 3 is one of Diddy's ex-girlfriends, okay? So it can't be some sneaky link on the side. But listen to this. Victim 3, Diddy argues, this is in the court documents. This is because Diddy's trying, the judge is saying no, but he's telling Diddy why it's no. Diddy argues that the warrant affidavits, which stated that Diddy did something that was blocked out, redacted, excluded victim 3 because of this. She said that she was blanked and that Diddy blanked. But get this. So when Diddy said that, Diddy was saying this should be tossed out because the warrants were full of lies and admissions. You're saying that I hurt victim 3, but I have proof that victim 3 never really thought I hurt her. And I have proof that victim 3 thinks it was no big deal. And you guys are making her testify, okay? Here's what the judge writes. But, and I know what you're saying, Tisa, how does this prove it's Gina? Shh, listen, I'm getting there. But if the affidavits had included all of victim 3's public statements, they would have included a public interview in which victim 3 corroborated Diddy's systematic pattern. Now, you guys, listen, and this is an exclusive because I read the documents first. 1, how many of Diddy's ex-girlfriends have given public interviews where they talked about Diddy's abuse? I'll wait. Are you talking about Tasha K's interview with Gina? Because that's what I'm thinking too. Judge Aaron just confirmed that Gina, upon information and belief, let me know if you think I'm wrong, reading this, upon information and belief, Gina is victim number 3. And Diddy's saying, but no, you're leaving out, because it was a whole 15-page document.
Strike 22 is just asking, isn't Gina 50 Cent's baby mother?
No.
Is that a thing? I didn't think so. I didn't think they had overlap like that.
It's not that one. That's not 50 Cent's baby mother. 50 Cent's baby mother is not this woman in the picture. I forget what her name is. I'll find it.
Pointing when I was mad, but what about when I was in a good mood? And Judge Aaron was saying, even if we believe what victim 3 and all these good statements you're talking about, she gave a public interview. If you want to talk about her statements, let's talk about all of it. She gave a public interview where she recounted your vicious abuse. As far as I know, that is Gina Hahn. They said even if the affidavits didn't clearly state that Gina still has a soft spot for you, they provide detailed evidence.
Joy.
Bomb.
Oh, that's
they
her name.
That
okay.
In another incident, Diddy did this is redacted too. He also did this. This is clearly sufficient to establish that Diddy used force and coercion to get that woman to participate in things that she did not want. Y'all.
All right, so victim 3 hasn't popped up again, but it seems like it is Gina Hahn. Dainty.
Thank you very much.
Has zero credibility. Thank you for donating money to us. Who knows who doesn't? Realistically, it's like all of this is speculation for what is going to come. Daphne, doesn't that sound familiar to you guys?
Daphne Joy dated Diddy, but it's 50 Cent's baby mother, and she also dated Jason Derulo.
All right. Speaking of, I'm not segueing like that. Basically, the new pope's been chosen, and Robert Francis Prevost, a 69-year-old Chicago native and former missionary in Peru, has been elected Pope Leo XIV, becoming the first US-born pontiff in the Catholic Church's 2,000-year history. While celebrated for his humility and global outlook, his appointment has also revived scrutiny over past clerical abuse. That's the segue I was making, not trying to say this and this and this. But here's an overview of the new Pope, and then we're going to get into some of one particular angle of the controversy associated with his name.
Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost will now be known as Pope Leo XIV. Coming from humble beginnings in Chicago, the 69-year-old is the new leader of the Roman Catholic Church. He's the first American role.
He's not a showboat. He is very calm, but extremely intelligent and extremely compassionate.
Father Mark Francis, a former seminary classmate, says Prevost has always been committed to outreach.
He's a person who's very sensitive and is concerned to allow everyone to have a voice.
His papal name may signal his priorities. The last pope to take that name, Leo XIII, was known for focusing on Catholic social teachings, especially having to do with workers' rights. Prevost spent much of his life outside of the United States, serving for about 2 decades in Peru, including as a missionary and bishop.
Part of it was a very poor part of Trujillo. He always made conscious decision to make sure that the poor were attended to.
His record is not without controversy. Accountability groups have accused him of mishandling clergy sexual abuse claims in both Peru and Chicago. From Peru, Prevost was called to Rome, appointed by Pope Francis to hold one of the most influential Vatican posts, overseeing the selection of new bishops. He was made a cardinal in 2023. Prevost is believed to have shared many of Pope Francis's views on the environment and on the need to embrace migrants and the poor, though he will have to clarify his views on the role of women within the church.
And one of the most important issues was the experience of women who don't feel valued and who want to contribute more to the life and to the ministries of the church.
As Pope Leo addressed the crowd, he spoke of the need to build bridges.
I saw him as someone who would build consensus, someone who was able to see that the via media, the middle is where dialogue really is fruitful and takes place.
Tonight, many will be hoping the new pope can be a force of stability in a world growing increasingly turbulent. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
So, thoughts on the new pope, and I'm just going to go into, there's just a little bit of a discussion about from the angle of survivors of sexual abuse who really want, because there's that new law that's potentially it's been on the table a few times in in America, but they're saying that the clergy must disclose when someone confesses to sexual abuse in confession during confessional time. Obviously, for a long time that's off the table. It's been you break. It's not client, but that's that thing, confidentiality. Now it's like, no, this has to be superseded. And obviously, the Catholic Church has had so much abuse tales associated with it. You can share your first thoughts while I set up the next video. Or not.
I reserve judgment. I reserve judgment because I don't know what he's about yet. So I think that's it.
I think from the top, from what I've been seeing, it's been kind of split with what people have said about him. It's either like, no, he deserves this, or there has to be a look into what he has presided over and let go through. And it's like, if you're now going to be the head, well, he is the head, that doesn't really work, because then that is following the same patterns of what the Catholic Church is forever being accused of. So you just have another head figure that will carry on the same ways. But more interesting to me, I know we're going into this, they have this ongoing with the sexual abuse stuff, is that it's now that he's Black. I find that interesting.
Is now that who's Black?
The Pope.
The Pope.
What?
Do you not know this? You haven't looked at the thing I put in the group. There's a whole thing of he has Black ancestry on both sides.
Okay. So he
on both sides of his family.
Yeah.
So
apparently he's a Black Pope.
He's like, they're saying he's like passing because it's gone down that much in his generations. But his family are Haitian, Black Haitian, and his family are Creole. And on both sides. I mean, there's a video there's a video about it that I've put in the group where it's explained.
All right, let's go.
Go show your thing. We can get to it.
Yeah, thing. We get to that after.
I have been in a bubble because I just looked at his skin, to be fair, and didn't do any research. I did not know he was. Actually...
It's the whole thing. People are saying it's a whole. It's been proven. They're pulling out the receipts.
Yeah.
Right. Interesting. Okay, so. What I was saying was, for a new law in Washington State is a new law that's been introduced in Washington State, actually, that requires clergy to report suspected child abuse, even disclose it during religious confession. The move has sparked backlash from the Catholic Church, which considers breaking the confessional seal grounds for automatic excommunication, and has drawn attention from the US Justice Department. Governor Bob Ferguson signed the law in last week. The requirement applies to all religions, including Catholic confession. The Justice Department is now reviewing the law amongst the concerns. Survivors of sexual abuse by Catholic priests are calling for Pope Leo XIV to institute a zero-tolerance policy and for the Church to investigate this handling of prior sexual abuse allegations. So this is a woman talking about what happened to her in Peru, and then there's a little bit of discussion on democracy now.
What happened to me was around 2007. At the time, the priest would invite us to celebrations, to go on missions, to pray the rosary with him, or to mass. He would insist on having youth go on missions with him, to rural regions in the mountains. After so much insistence, my parents agreed because the priest and I were really close. When it was time to go to bed, he ended up sleeping with me. It was something I didn't expect, and it was very uncomfortable. In regards to Father Ricardo Yesquin, I attended a youth missionary group with him. I was standing in line to greet him when he kissed me. He sat me on top of his legs and he kissed me.
So there is the clip of Ana Maria Quispe, the Peruvian woman accusing two priests of sexual abuse. If you can talk further, Peter, as you sit there in Rome, what your demands are at this point, and if you've ever spoken to the current Pope, to Pope Leo XIV.
No, I've never spoken to him. I don't know if any survivor has spoken to him. He hasn't tweeted anything from survivors, as far as I know. I mean, here's what we wanted from him. Here's what he needs to do. One, he needs to pass not a policy, a law, a canon law. That's what governs the Catholic Church. a zero tolerance law. And what that means is simple. Any cleric, any priest, known, determined, like these priests were known and determined to have committed acts of sexual abuse, violence, rape, assault against a child, will be permanently removed from the Catholic priesthood. He can no longer be a priest. He can't function as a priest. He can't represent himself as a priest. That zero tolerance right now around the world, you can be a bishop, you can have priests, and they know of these priests who have raped and sexually assaulted children, and you can stay in the ministry, you can transfer them to new assignments, and that's perfectly legal under this church law. Secondly, he needs to tell us how he has handled these cases. There needs to be an independent body, not hired by the church, not hired by him, that's going to look into the abuse archives that he's involved with. So when he was Augustinian provincial, when he was head of the Augustinian order, right now we're in the Augustinian headquarters. Those files might be right here. They might be like three floors down from me. Those need to be reviewed. What cases did he handle? Because every case of an Augustinian during that time of rape and sexual assault, and there were cases, went to him, he was responsible for. And in Peru, all that time in Peru, every case in his diocese, he was responsible for. That needs to be examined. He needs to be transparent. He needs to be honest. Let's open the archives and see what he's done. Even with the case, by the way, this victim, her other two sisters then came forward with her. It's not just her, it's just her and her two sisters, for God's sake. Let's see the report he sent to Rome that has led to the closing of this case. And then finally, the last job he had was head of the dicastery of bishops. All the reports of bishops that have covered up sex crimes, guess where they're supposed to go? Guess where Estes is supposed to be instituted? Over there with him. So he knows of all any reports of bishops that have covered up sex crimes or cardinals. Those files are over there. So he needs to open up those archives, because believe me, we want to trust him. Right now, there is no indication when it comes to this that he can be trusted. I am the last person that wants to say this. Do you know how difficult this is for me to say with all the praise and adulation and glory? I agree with many of the positions that the other two guests talked about. I agree with that. But just because I criticize Pope Leo, and just because we had the same problem with Francis covering up sex crimes, that does not make us J.D. Vance. That does just make us conservatives because, oh, God, we're criticizing Pope Leo. And I'm sorry to get so worked up about this, but it is extraordinarily difficult to be in these conversations right now.
I think everything he said makes sense to me. Like everything he put forward should be, with all of the cases, that should be what the Pope is like.
Yeah.
And we are going to actually really show everybody, we're going to be really transparent about what we're doing to make change. It shouldn't be that you can have a case here and then all you got to do is be reassigned and you're somewhere else with a new pop-up and you can do the same thing there. That does sound like a haven for a PDF file. Like it does. Because they go into institutions where they can hide.
Where they can be protected and, absolutely. And I do wonder about that all the time. I'm obviously Catholic and I struggle with stuff like that because there are so many things where this can be a cesspit.
Yeah.
And where it can attract that type of person. Because it's and the laws are different for them.
Yeah, and that's the thing. For as long as we've had this association, which is terrible association, it's like, why would you not beat the charges, as they say, or beat the accused? Why would you not do as much as you can? And I understand that
everything.
Yeah, that relationship between your priest, it's meant to be protected. It is, but how? And I understand. I understand the morality of it all, because if you're faithful, you're going to have faith in. You'll get judged when you pass. And who are you to judge? And you're just the vessel to ensure that the person tries to continue doing better or doing better under the arch of religion. But when it comes to something that's so detrimental, and why people are turning away from faith in droves, because you cannot have faith in the institution that you've been whatever you come to get peace and solace. It's a really difficult one, but I understand not having state and religion intertwined, but it is already anyway.
Yeah.
There has to be a line, and it has to be.
Yeah. They have to send a message to these people that if you think that you can come into this religion that people, so many billions of people across the world hold dear, and manipulate it and enforce these horrible, disgusting things on children, you know, that's going to scar them for the rest of their lives, and get away with it. You're not going to get away with it. We're actually going to punish you. You're going to be ejected from the Roman Catholic Society. You're also going to be imprisoned. We're going to hand you over to the police. I think it needs to be done. I do.
Because I think even if they think that, even if they think, okay, that's going to push them underground, I don't think it's any more as, because how many people are actually actually going into confessional and saying, well, this is what I've been doing? How many compared to what goes on anyway? So to say that, it would be interesting to know, which we could probably never do, is like, what kind of things get admitted to in confessional that means that we need to have this stand firm that actually we cannot, because there's too many.
Some people that go to confession, there's basic things that you can say when you go to confession to be blessed by your priest. I would struggle to believe that everybody that goes to confession is actually confessing something that they feel is like extremely sinful.
Exactly.
So I'm not sure about that. And then there are people who don't go to confession at all.
Exactly, and that's my point. Yeah, like how can you gauge? Is it
as a therapist? Don't therapists have to state like you can't tell me a crime because you can't hold a crime? They have to go to the police about it. Yes. Like you don't have. So in effect, it would be exactly the same. If somebody comes to you and says such and such has been touching me, you have been told of a crime, you should then pass on the details. It's that part of the confessional where it's like you should be that, especially if there has been centuries long scandal of, as an institution, you have been hiding these things. There has to be radical change from that. It's not little change, radical change. It's literally no more. We are not doing this. Is now you hear it, and then once that happens, if you have confessed something to a priest and he didn't follow through on it, he too gets in trouble. Like there has to be a through line of no, we are not accepting this to thrive in our society.
I think that you're right in the aspect of if someone goes into confession and says that they've done something, you know, either molested somebody or committed murder or any of those types of things, it's one thing to absolve that person of sin because that's what you do in the eyes of the Lord, right? But it's another thing to stick to the law. And the law is that if someone has done something like this, then they should be prosecuted, you know? So I feel like they need to kind of understand that in the Catholic religion now. That needs to be, especially because of this, what we've all said, they have this massive stain on them now that all this stuff has been going on for millennium, you know? And now it's time to stamp it out.
And also, we're speaking from someone going into confessional. We're also not even discussing the actual leaders, religious leaders who have.
No, but that's why I said that if they get found out within the Catholic religion, they should be kicked out. They shouldn't be protected and they shouldn't be. I'm talking about the leaders and the priests and the popes and the bishops and all of. I'm talking about those people. I'm saying that what shouldn't happen is what has happened is that they are removed from one post and sent somewhere else. What should happen is those people are removed from the Catholic religion or being able to practice as a Catholic practitioner like of the religion, and then they should be actually held accountable and sent to jail.
What we're saying is that also and also the network of, and it's alleged, I'm going to say alleged, systematic where to the point where comedians make jokes about going into like seeing a Catholic priest as a child, you know that they're going to meet with the altar boys, all that type of thing. Actually, aside from confessional, aside from people like leaders letting people confess and then get away with it, let's in very basic terms, actual leaders actually going into countries and under the guise of being religious, they're executing and actually practicing abuse on people. That network of cover up is also a thing that is hugely associated with not just the Catholic Church, but generally the Catholic Church and church like that.
I mean, we say it all the time, like people do a lot of fuckeries under the guise of religion.
Yes.
They do it all the time.
But specifically,
we're seeing it now across the world.
Yeah. But specifically with this, get rid of that notion as well, because also there's just immediately that, and I'm not casting aspersions on anyone because I don't know enough. I obviously didn't even know he had black heritage, Pope Leo, that you're working in another country, then what's associated with your name is that you're allegedly overlooking certain crimes that have been committed by your peers. And so that makes me suspicious.
So I don't, because the people around him came out and they made a statement. I forget what it is, word for word. But they didn't say that it's not as though he heard about it and didn't do anything. What it is that he didn't do enough. That's what they're saying. So this is where it goes back to what should be done when these crimes are committed and these popes and these priests finds out about it. What is the next step? I think that this idea of it will be dealt with within the Catholic religion and within the Vatican will deal with it. That's the part that I think is wrong, because we're now in different territory. It shouldn't be for you at the Vatican to just be like, okay, we'll deal with it in-house. It should,
because it gets swept under the carpet and they may get a telling off and they get moved somewhere else. There's too many instances of that. But his total criticism is because there was lots of scandals in Peru and he was the head. Now, to have Peru as a country had a lot of shit going on and then you were the head of it. So maybe you could say, okay, it didn't quite get to me or whatever. But then to become the Pope, that's what the guy was saying. We need to know what your history is. So amongst your peers, you got selected. But as congregation who have been abused by people who should have been looking after us, we need to know the head of this church now. But what's your track record? What were you actually doing? I think it's fair for any head that hasn't been elected by the congregation to be there. You've been selected by cardinals. It should be that actually for the people to be like, we are truly going to listen to this man. It's fine to ask what is actually your credentials for this, because it's the world has changed. I think that's it's a fair one to ask.
Okay, so this is about him having black heritage.
Yes.
You can't convince me he's not. He's black like Mary from Sinners is black. They're passing. It's okay. Pope Leo's mother's parents are from a black community in New Orleans in the 7th Ward. Pope Leo's grandfather is from Haiti and he identified as mulatto, but was also called black. His grandmother is New Orleans Creole. By your one-drop rule, he's black. When they came to America, they switched races. This is from Nicole Hannah-Jones. The Pope's paternal grandfather is from Haiti. His family switched racial identities when they moved north. Nicole Hannah-Jones. I didn't give a whit about new Pope coverage, but the first American Pope being a man with black ancestry born in Chicago by way of New Orleans, by way of Haiti, named himself after the Pope who condemned slavery in the Trump era. Oh, baby, I am here for it. Hells yeah. The Pope is black, yo. The Pope is black.
This is sometimes.
No, it made me laugh because of there was too many American signals, and when he was announced, it's like, okay, so Trump bought this. Yeah, Trump doing the whole Pope thing. JD Vance going and killing off the Pope allegedly, like, and then the next one comes along and is an American. It just made me laugh that there was a lot of MAGA people being like, "Oh hell yeah, look, we got the Pope, we got the Pope," and then when it comes out, he is actually a man of color. It's like, well, what are you gonna say now?
And he's a man who he's also a man who has opposed Trump.
Yes.
Trump, his tweet about Trump's policies on immigration, all of that stuff, and MAGA were in their feelings like, he's one of us. No, he's not.
It's a joke. But yes, there is a new Pope. Is that here doing his thing?
Let's see.
All right, it's 3:15. We must go, but just end up on some nonsense. Have you guys seen that? Do you know, we had so much more to go through. I think actually we had so much. So next week's going to be another doozy, I guess. Have you seen?
It's going to be a doozy.
It's going to be. Nike is set to release a new twist on its classic Air Force One sneaker dubbed the Dirty Triple White, which appears worn and scuffed out of the box, but gradually lightens and looks newer the more it is worn. 1 second, let me get it up on the screen.
And how much are these going to be? Like 300 quid?
No, actually not. But even still, it's still foolishness in my opinion. But here oh God, sorry, hold on 1 second. Talk amongst yourselves for a second. Get some comments actually on the last topic. Sorry, we didn't do that.
Okay. Celine Dillon says religion informs capitalism, i.e. racist, homophobic, patriarchy. Let me see. William says, I just don't get why his skin color matters. It's also irrelevant. Will Smith says, I can't do Chiore. Really? I don't watch him enough to care either way.
I know what you mean.
And then Celine Dion says, this also circles back to Carole Malone stating colonialism was good because it was carried out under a religious banner.
Yes.
100%. And I think just to touch on, I don't know why skin color matters. It does matter. And that's why this conversation, this little bit of thing is, I mean, we can get into it, otherwise we can start talking a long time, but let's have that conversation because it's annoying. But his skin color.
There was a rejoicing when they thought he was a white American, and that's what made me laugh. Like it seemed to just shapeshift slightly.
Let's see, but his skin color absolutely does matter because of these things. But anyway, here's these dirty triple whites, Nike Air Forces. Let's go.
The Nike Dirty Triple White are being released. Nike by Nike has and officially released the date and price point of the Dirty Triple White Nike Air Force One. The Dirty Triple White Nike Air Force One should be released on May 7th for the price point of $130. But you make me think, why $130 when regular pair of triple white Nike Air Force One go for $115? The leather is better than the standard Air Force Ones, plus with the extra layer materials cost more to produce. Nike. Say the shoes gets cleaner the more you wear it. The idea is people who love and wear their Air Force Ones the most will be rewarded with a new pair. Plus, how you take a closer look under the shoe, it us cleaner white. But come alone with Dirty Triple White are the triple black Air Force Ones, both white and black. Air Forces will be released on May 7th. The triple blacks Air Force Ones will get darker the more you water them, and each pair of the triple black and the Dirty Triple White Air Forces has a branch attached with them to let you test if they really cannot get cleaned. But the public really, those not like the idea that Nike is coming with. But between the Dirty Triple White and the triple blacks Air Forces Ones, which one will you get, and will you get them for $130?
People have gone mad.
How much did they say they made in China?
Yay, Andrew!
Andrew! €5. Thank you.
And he says Pope YN, because he's from Chicago, probably has a Chief Keef playlist locked and loaded for next month.
Can you imagine?
He might indeed. He might just indeed. I just wanted to.
Oh my gosh! Can you imagine if he played Kanye? Jesus Walks.
Oh my God.
That'd be
I mean,
great.
that is actually my favorite. I think it is actually my favorite Kanye tune.
Is it?
I think that is my yeah. I love Jesus Walks. I was so disappointed with that video because I had envisioned how great that video could have been, and it just wasn't. It was a letdown. But yes, the Nike. Why?
No.
Why?
No.
Why is anybody gonna do that?
Why?
But just no. It's a no for me.
It's a no from me. Imagine
they're on my list anyway, Nike.
I don't wear. I'm not a Nike.
They're on the boycott list.
They're on the boycott list.
I don't.
Okay.
But yeah, this is ridiculous. It's more marketing of capitalizing on our foolishness and our consumerism. Just wanted to have a little.
It gets blacker the more you wear it. Like what is that? Just give me black trainers, no?
Give me black trainers. Why do I want dusty grey?
You know what? As well, there's going to be some people with some beat down trainers, and they're like, "Yes, it's the double white." Or whatever.
I wear my night triple white.
Yeah, that's what it is, really. Though, you know, man like you can't afford these things here.
Just quickly, this is a time out. Took a little trip down memory lane about how much things cost back in the day. The cost of a London night out in 1995 versus 2025.
I can attest to spending £5 and having the best time of my life.
So if you had 2 pints at the pub, got the tube, paid club entry, had 2 more pints, got a McDonald's, Mackey's, and then took a 20-minute taxi home. In 1995, it cost £22. In 2025, it cost £66.
No, it doesn't. I leave. When I go to the Barbican today, I guarantee if I've spent £50, I did well.
Yeah.
One destination.
Yes.
If I spend 50, I've done well.
Right.
Most of the time, as soon as I leave my house, 100, poof, gone.
Agreed.
And that's a good night. It can be even more.
All right. So, cost of club entry. So the white little circle is 95. The purple circle is 25. So a club called Underworld was £4, and now it's £8. A club Heaven, it was £8, now it's £10. Ministry of Sound was £5, and now it's £28. Coco, Camden Palace, £6, and now it's £29.
Bullshit! I never paid £6 to get into Camden Palace. My tickets were like 20 quid.
I'm trying to think like
what, Camden Palace? No, I never paid over a tenner to get in there.
Jungle raves.
Certain raves, and I remember paying like maybe £10 tickets and stuff like that.
It was more than £10. I remember feeling like that there were certain raves where tickets were a rip-off, and that's not £10. It wasn't £10.
I think even telepathy was £16.50. It was always like £15 with the booking fee.
£18.50, like £20. I remember £18.50.
I don't remember doing a 20 until I had £20 tickets was like garage time. But Jungle, I don't remember paying over £15 for anything. It was always like a tenner or a 15 plus booking fee.
£18.50, £15, like £18.50. That bracket. I remember paying that for Jungle raves. Definitely not £6.
All right. So cigarettes. A 20-pack in 95 were £2.59. Now they're £16.
You can even get them for less. If you bought Super Kings or special Kings, whatever they're Super Kings, they'll get the long ones. You can get them for about £2.
Yeah,
£2.10.
Yeah.
They would cost.
I even remember when Silk Huts would do those specials, like when it would give you a special for a little bit, and it was like £1.89.
Yeah. When I used to go to school, I used to be able to buy, this is like in the early days, early 90s, I used to be able to buy 10 B&H, a Kit Kat, and a Cornetto for less than a £5.
Absolutely. Cost of travel, 50p on the bus in 95, £1.75 today.
I remember paying 10p. My earliest memory of getting a bus, kids fare, but it was 10p.
Yeah. We're looking at the taxi fare. The base fare used to be £1.20 in 95. And in 2005, the baseline fare is £5. And I definitely feel like when I come out, I was saying it the other day, I think on the way home from Aunties, I felt, because when I wasn't feeling well, I had to get off at Hammersmith because I had to justify paying about £7, £8 to get home, rather than getting off at my doorstep, because I chose to get the tube instead of getting all the way home. Because if I get off at my doorstep, it's a 10-minute walk, but I was really mashed up. But then, and there's always taxis outside. But I would have ended up paying £10 to be like to come to my door, which is a 10-minute walk. So I had to get off at Hammersmith to just justify, because the baseline is £5. It's so like, so I have to justify my journey whenever I want a cab and stuff like that. The tube in 95 was 50p. In 25, it's £2.80. That's a zone
basic journey, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Every time we go to Aunties, it's like, what is it? I feel it's like £6.80 or something like that, there and back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. I don't know why. I mean, I don't know what this is.
I wish someone did petrol. Is petrol on here?
I have no idea. I didn't go through it all. 23k is the amount of cocaine consumed by Londoners every day in 2019. This has never been my portion.
Wow, every day.
23 kilograms.
Wow.
What the fuck?
Okay.
I mean, it's obviously going to be more because that's what they know of, but obviously there must be way more. I would never even have thought it was that much.
And in 1995, ketamine was £15 for one tablet and £6 for powder, aka cocaine. Today, a gram of K is around £40.
They should talk about £5 rules.
Yeah. Exactly. Number of pubs in 1995, there were 5,421. In 2024, there were 3,470.
That's deceiving though, because it says London on the left-hand side and then UK on the right-hand side. So
yeah, so there's UK.
So the white one is the old date, is that it? The white space is in the 90s. Okay, cool.
And in the whole of the UK, there was 61,000, and in the UK, and in 2025, there was 38,989.
Yeah. And you see it.
That though,
a loss of 22,011 and a decrease of 36% of pubs in the UK and London. There was a loss of 56%.
Where's the petrol?
Yeah.
Keep going.
You can absolutely see that. I think that is the huge problem with nightlife.
Yes.
In the UK as it is, and why there are so many young people that don't have friends. It's because there isn't a whole social scene for a youth subculture to grow outside of state life and being an asshole on social media. Whereas that wouldn't happen if you truly did have. I have friends who purely I just met raving.
Yeah,
I would not know them if it wasn't for every time I went to a rave, they were there. Like a whole set of people that and they are my brethren. So meeting like Emil I met in a rave. Although Emil knows absolutely everybody in London, but he knows everybody in London because he was always at all of the raves. Him and his brethren really looked after me and my friends. Like it was like having big brothers in a space. They would see us, they would look after us. That's now over 20 odd years. He's still a friend from just bucking up with him in one rave in West London. Like that, it means a lot. And I feel sorry for young people that don't have that. It's like you're not going to a pub. Nobody even goes to pubs anymore anyway. But at least you have pubs that you go to.
Yeah, all they've got are festivals, and that's not an every weekend thing.
Yeah.
No. What's that? Once a year you're going to buck up with somebody in Glastonbury if you're lucky. It's too big. When are you seeing them?
I think there are some subculture movements. I think my daughter's mentioned a few, but then it's few and far between, and your money is not up like that. Because then also, anyway, so the 90s saw the
there's nowhere to go. Sorry, I was just going to say, because there's nowhere to go. That's why, like, my niece, they're tired at like 9 o'clock.
Yeah. Honestly, honestly.
She told me the other day that she's got a bashment rave to go to, and she was like, my friend told me to get ready at 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, yeah. She said, what do you mean 1 o'clock in the morning? How does that work? And I'm like,
oh, they're still doing all-nighters like that.
But you know, like the underground bashment ones where you don't know where you're going. You buy the ticket, you find out on the day where the rave is.
The 90s saw the introduction of the 24-hour club license in London in venues like the End and Turnmills. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Geez.
In 58 of London's 221 nightclubs held 24-hour licenses compared to 183 in 2021. The number
I actually thought that they had abolished that licensing scheme because I didn't know any clubs that still had it. So I thought it wasn't about anymore.
Because when it happened, it was like, everywhere's going to stay. And then they still were like, lock off thing.
Yes.
2011, the number of bars and pubs London has lost since the pandemic.
Oh, shit.
Wow.
Okay, well, he's just saying it's not all doom and gloom. There's a few places where actually in the past year, new light clubs have opened in Brixton, Wandsworth, South Ken, White City. Exhibition in White City. Where's that?
Yeah.
Brixton.
Oh no, that's where they did the last R&B song.
Oh, the one across the next one. Oh yeah.
Right, isn't it Flippers?
And there's
No, not that one.
No, it's next.
I actually thought Exhibition was Flippers redone. So it's a whole new space.
Hold on, it is. I'm thinking of that. There's two places.
I thought it was a place next to this tube station. I thought that's
that's. I'm pretty sure Nana's right that Flippers was Exhibition, because in my head I thought it was the place next to the station as well. But I think Nana's right.
What? So hold on, be clear.
Exhibition, old Flippers, is old Wood Lane station.
What? Wood Lane. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So because Flippers has just closed down.
Yeah.
I'm sure Flippers is now Exhibition.
Oh right.
Because
Okay.
if you think of how Flippers was, walking in there, I was like, this is a club. Like this would make a phenomenal club space. Yeah. So I'm sure that is what Exhibition is now. But there is stuff at Exhibition already. They are.
You're right. That is Exhibition.
Yeah.
It's basically, so that Exhibition, that place is the very old Wood Lane train station.
Yeah.
So back in the day, way before our days, that was Wood Lane train station.
Alrighty. So that's what's happening. And what else they got? 3 nightclubs: The Cause, John Boy, Night Tales, Egg, Dalston Superstore, CS Low in Hackney, and you can get a pint for less than a £5 at certain pubs. Blah 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 blah. So that's just what it is.
Even that sounds ridiculous. A pint for less than a £5. A pint used to be a pound.
You're right. Like, where did I go the other day? Yesterday actually, and I managed to get, like, obviously I'm not drinking still, but this is at my friend's wedding last week, and I bought a tonic water. I bought 2 tonic waters, and it was £4.20, and I was really happy that it was £4.20. It's like, that shit should be a pound.
The way that my corner shop, I've reduced the amount of snacks and stuff that I snack on nowadays. But going to the corner shop and I could go to the corner shop when I first moved down here with like £2 and get a good sufficient stack. Yeah. I'd have a bag of stuff. Now, if I was to do that, we're coming out best of a tenner.
But petrol. I know you lot don't drive. I'm a driver, so I'm going to keep half on about it. Yeah. But I remember in the 90s when petrol was like 79 pence or something like that. And me and my cousin used to say, oh, petrol's going to be £1 one day. It's going to be £1 soon. You wait and see. Petrol is like, you're lucky if you can find a station that's like £1.38. And that's because it's gone down at the moment. Like, I've paid £1.50 for petrol easily.
Yes, definitely. But don't you remember when people were protesting?
Yeah,
when it got £1? And then it seemed like that protest ended, and then they were like, how do you like these apples? It's going to be £1.20. Like, soon after, folks were like, you can't make it £1. They were like, and what are you going to do now? Because what can you do? You still need to drive. Like, you're going to pay it, innit?
So
it's flipping crazy.
So a litre of petrol generally around 50p. For example, 95 it costs 53 a litre. 25 it's now roughly 133.18 pence.
And you know that there are still people that are on their 90s wages.
Yeah. 100%.
Like, I don't go to any petrol station. I will if I need petrol, but I'll make sure that I'll go to like a Tesco, because they'll have cheaper petrol and I can use my points.
Honestly,
I can get points from petrol. I don't like to go to BP because it's too expensive. Shell ain't see me. You got to shop for petrol. It's a lot.
To be fair, it's funny. Even that, I always remember being a passenger. I remember the driver looking for, no, I've got to go to this petrol station because it's a little. Yeah. That's not changed, but the price has changed. All right, guys. That has been a very bumper news and nonsense. You've done it again. You had us stick around for longer than...
No, they got us even longer. We've done over 3 hours. We haven't done that before. This is 3 hours and 12 minutes.
Practically.
It's a nice day. We want to catch some sun, guys.
I'm saying, do.
Right, thank you so
can we
much.
just big up Kevin
again?
I'm going through what he paid us. Kevin actually came through and gave us £15 in total. £15 £5. Thank you so much.
AKA Mr. K.
And then Fire from the Sun also gave us
Yes, gave us £5 as well. My sister, my big sister, thank her in the chat, please. I will be doing her
Original AK.
William became a member.
Welcome. Thank you. Andrew.
Welcome. And
Thank
Dave.
you.
And Dave D. $2 as well. Thank you guys, man. You guys
Thank you so much.
really gave it all to us.
Thank you
so much. We
Stephen A.
Don't be jealous. Where's your contribution?
You know how you can be a teacher's pet, Stephen.
Exactly.
Send us money. We're living in 2025 prices and we want to be in the 90s. Send us money.
Thank you, Auntie. I'm going to watch it back from the start. Thank you very much. Thank you. Watch from the start. Like, comment, and subscribe. And Yvonne's saying 3 hours of great chat. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Bless you guys for sticking with us. Thank you, man. We will see you next week with all of the news and another Diddy update.
Did he do it?
Diddy
Bye,
did
guys.
it.
Diddy did that.